Hey everybody, Videobob. Welcome to the first ever Videobob show with all of our guests here on my YouTube channel. Simulcasting also on my Facebook page, Videobob Mosley. So if you're not already liked on that page, make sure to get on there. Today, we're going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart, Back to the Future, my favorite movie, and something that changed my life forever. Back in 2003, I bought a DeLorean, a stock DeLorean. I discovered that you could even own a DeLorean. I was watching a Discovery Channel show called Monster Garage with Jesse James, and had someone who was a friend of mine, the late great Don Steger, on the show. And I saw these guys with DeLoreans, and I didn't know that you could own such a car. I thought it was just a movie prop like the Batmobile. I didn't know it was a real car. And I went out searching, and I found a DeLorean, and I bought it, and I drove it around, and it just changed my life because I'd never owned anything so special and so unique. And what I found is everywhere you go with a DeLorean, people come up to you and say, "Hey, McFly, where's your flux capacitor?" They make jokes about Back to the Future. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go out into the garage since I had some building experience in electronics. And I made a flux capacitor. I put it in the back of the car, and people would be blown away when they would see it. So then I kept building. I kept adding, put plutonium gauges into the glove compartment, and I had this cobbled together upper console that was made out of wood and held up with bungee cords. And well, then I went to the DeLorean car show in Pigeon Forge in 2004, and I met a couple of really special people that also changed the course of my life. One of the people I met that we're going to bring on in just a second is Danny Bakken. He's a service manager at DeLorean Motor Company, and he had built a DeLorean Time Machine replica. And then another fellow named Oliver who had put together his own time machine replica in his backyard. And I saw these two cars, and even though there was like hundreds of DeLoreans at this DeLorean convention, everyone was crowded around these two time machines. And just the smiles on people's faces and how excited everybody was. It blew my mind. It was amazing. So I set out to build a DeLorean time machine myself. And we'll get into kind of how I did that here in a little bit. So first, let's bring up the first time machine I ever saw. I'm going to bring up my friend Danny. Danny, you're service manager, DeLorean Motor Company, California, right? That's your official title there?
That is my official title.
And you have built, how many time machines have you built so far?
I'm working on number 19 right now.
Wow. Did you ever think that you would get to 19?
No, not at all. I built my very first one was, just because, I just loved the movie, loved everything about it. And, of course, the first couple, not the most accurate in the world when we're doing on the first ones. But, honestly, it was probably one of the most fun ones I ever did, looking around, searching all these places, trying to find the parts. Of course, there wasn't the
Well, you had the advantage of being in California closer to some of the original parts. And you also had the advantage of being a DeLorean technician. My first one I built was out of like MDF and plywood and hot glue and spray paint. And then first time it rained, it fell apart like a gingerbread house. It was hilarious.
I was lucky enough to be working for Don at the time. We had a full machine shop in the back and things like that. So, I was always big on anything I make. I want to make it out of metal. I want to make it real and touch and feel. And, that's what I did back then. It turned out, it was a 4-year project, the first one. But it was fun.
I think, and I'm having to produce the whole show while I'm editing, so you'll see me running things in the background over here. I think the first car I built, we'll all talk about this. It probably took about 4 years of me going back and forth to Universal Studios, Hollywood, and going on online forums. All of us working together, and as we kept building, they kept getting crazier. Let's talk to Oliver. Where's Oliver here? Let's bring him up. Here's Oliver.
Here I am.
One of the first time machines I ever saw. I remember seeing pictures of your build on some of the forums that you were working on in the backyard, and you just kind of had to source what you had because you were in North Carolina when you built it, right?
Right. South Carolina actually.
Or South Carolina.
I love how both of you described building your first cars. You making things out of wood and parts and pieces that you had laying around, and Danny saying that his first build was maybe one of the most fun because you have a certain amount of freedom to use your creative license and build it like you want to build it and the way you think it should be built. And that's kind of the spirit in which we built ours.
Now, what's special about your car, though, is your car's been on just about every continent in the world, I think. Hasn't it?
I don't know about that. 28 countries.
Yeah, well, that's most of them. I mean, you've been everywhere with the car, raising money for our beloved Michael J. Fox and Team Fox Foundation. And that car, what do you have, like 500,000 miles on that thing?
Well, we got well over 1 million kilometers as far as miles go, about 820,000. So we're getting there.
How many engines is that? Is that the original engine?
2.5. And special thanks to Danny Botkin, of course, for helping us reach that number, along with all of the other DeLorean professionals out there.
That's right. I don't think any of us DeLorean or Time Machine owners would be on the road without Danny.
Exactly.
I love doing what I do. So it's a
happy. Danny,
I'd love to see you
remember. Well, I remember the first time we visited you was at Garden Grove, I guess, that location. And we parked out front and your car was parked out front. And we had a great visit. But when we went to leave, I almost got into your car. It was like, oh, getting the time machine. And it was really funny.
That was the standard running joke at the DeLorean Cars show where Ken Konslik would come up and say, with the owner of the DeLorean car, you left your lights on. 500 people go, oh, crap, man. They all look alike. And Danny, now you've had the special privilege of, throughout the years, getting to work on, repair, and help restore the screen-used A car from the movie many times.
Right.
The car that's now at the Peterson Museum.
Correct. Yeah, my first time I did it was back in 2001. They called me up and said they want to restore the original Back to the Future car that they were going to do a part for. And they wanted to know if we can get it running and dependable for them. And that's what really gave me the bug, between, seeing Oliver's car, him do his thing online at the time. And then when the original car came in, I was about halfway through the restoration of my car. And I looked at the original car, I looked at my car, I went, I could do this, So I took, hundreds of pictures.
You had access to that real car, but the downside is that that being fixed up by Jay Orberg had a lot of things on it that were wrong. So a lot of us were researching a car that was giving us the wrong information.
Right.
So after the restoration, things changed.
Correct. Yeah, that back lot was not kind to the A car throughout the years.
And I'm scratching my head here. I'm thinking, there's a theme park in the Orlando area that has a DeLorean Time Machine in it that I built.
Right.
And I'm not supposed to mention that. So I won't mention the theme park. But it's only been there since March, and the weather has not been kind to it. They leave this car sitting outside in the rain. Guests are trying to open the door. They're standing on the hood. The windshield's already cracked, and all the screws on it have rusted. I should have used stainless steel screws like you do, but I wanted to use the original black metal oxide screws that were in the film, and I thought it'll be fine. No, it wasn't fine. I got to go back to said park and repair the car probably this month and replace all the screws. So I can imagine the A car after 30 years of sitting at a theme park. Speaking of theme parks, I got a buddy here who has a great relationship with all of those Orlando theme parks. Let me bring up DJ Elliott.
What's happening?
He's now. So you work there at Disney, and then you also do some stuff with Universal as well, and other places around Orlando. And you have yourself a DeLorean Time Machine, which is parked over at our buddy Tony's shop, the DMC Orlando.
Correct.
Which he has a DeLorean sitting there that I bought that I still haven't picked up. It's been there for 2 months.
It's a nice car. It's a good car. A friend of mine almost bought it. So
really, I'm thinking about just driving down there in the bus and picking it up. That way I get to see you. We can hang out.
There you go.
So, all right. Now you built your car. I remember recently our video, and let me go ahead and bring up a couple of people that helped do that. Now we're getting a crazy noise off of one of these microphones. I think it's just an echo. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Brett, who's helped us, and Joe. We're going to have all 6 of us on here at one time. And so tell us a little bit about your building your car, Elliot. You had help from a lot of different people.
Yeah, actually, Oliver was one of the first to help me. We bent, of course, everyone can agree one of the hardest things of building the car is the flux bands, and we bent flux bands by hand. We didn't even use a hydraulic bender. We used a manual one, like men, right, Oliver?
Well, I've been using the same. It's a conduit bender. It's a Greenlee conduit bender I got from Home Depot for $39, and it's just a round thing on a pole, and that's how we've done. We just finished our 34th car at my shop, Bob Shop, and every one of them was done with that same metal pipe bender, conduit bender.
Now, we use hollow pipes. Danny, you use solid core aluminum, right?
Correct. Yeah, I have a fixed mount bender in my shop, and of course I use a bench type one. You can get the Harbor Freight, the little orange one, to do it. But that's
I've tried the
worst thing.
Yeah, I tried using that hydraulic thing, and it's just you could never get. All of us know. I don't know if you know this term, the pork chop. That's what I call it. As you come down, you get keeping them parallel at the same time. So I'm getting a bit of a rattle. Let me see if it's Danny. No, it's not Danny. It might be Oliver. Let me see who it is. I can't figure out what. There's some kind of a rattle coming out here.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody's wearing a lavalier.
I don't know. It's. Let me see. I'm gonna figure out which one it is. It's not me. No, it's not. It's not yours, Oliver. Let me see.
Not me.
No, it's not Brett. Let me see if it's Elliot. I can't figure it out. It's just a weird anomaly. Okay. Well, hopefully it's not too bad for the viewers. But it sounds like somebody like eating a Lego.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, down here.
And we had our buddy Carl waiting. He took off. Carl, I think he's going to come back. I'll text him. He might have got bored. Let's see. Oh, I got somebody special. Hold on just a second. Let me reply to them. They wanted to know if it was audio or video. It's both. You got to look pretty for this broadcast, person. Okay. So we all know that the crazy bands are the. I wish I could figure out what that rattle is.
I think it's Danny because it was happening.
Is it Danny?
At the beginning.
Let me mute Danny just for a second. That might have been it. So okay, I think it is your thing. I think what's happening, Danny, is there's a little bit of a feedback loop and the canceller is going out. Do you have any headphones? I'm going to mute you for a second, and then when you want to say something, just raise your hand. He's going to go find some. Okay, so for just a second, I'll take him out. All right, so the bands are definitely the hardest. So what for those of you watching, there's these metal rails that go around the car. They go around the front bumper. They start at the roof. They go down the sides of the fender and under the car. And what these are 3/4 inch. They're supposed to be 3/4 inch aluminum rods that are welded with little spacers together, and then they have a mesh that run together, and then they're held on with rubber brackets. And the original car had actual neon tubing, glass tubing that ran through there, and that's how they lit up. Now, this has been something of a huge controversy for many years. As Kevin Pike had mentioned before, they used white 10 millimeter neon to do the original lighting, but then as in the film, they added sort of a blue lightning effect to it. So the argument is, do you do the car the way it was built for the film, or do you do it as it appeared on camera? I've always preferred the white light. I know a lot of other people like to do the blue. Which one did you choose and why? Whoever wants to go first.
Well, I think, your purpose, the reason, how it's going to be used is the way the question should be led. They did it for the movie for movie reasons. They used white, even if they wanted it blue, so that they would have the option of making it whatever color they wanted and for maximum, brightness. We used blue, LED flex neon the third go around, and as far as why, I don't know, just I like the color of it and the way it looked.
I think Danny's back. Oh, that's much better. What?
Yeah, I'm back on now.
What did you do for your Flux bands for lighting them up?
Well, originally, my very first car I used, it was the little tiny E-wire. They had blue E-wire back then. There wasn't any, the neon stuff we have now. And I would put that in the refrigerator tube. I would slide that into the refrigerator tube and put it back there because it gave a little diffusion to it. I ran 2 lines, and hey, I thought it was the greatest thing on earth at the time. And then they came out with the blue, LED neon, and you do 2 strips of that in there. And behind the grilling, I actually do a white milk plexiglass to diffuse it. And you turn that on at night, it lights up my whole shop. It just looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't switch now.
My very first car that I ever lit up was my 6th car, number 6, which was the car that was sold on the television show Auction Kings on Discovery Channel. And I wanted it to really be my best work. So I had a neon guy, sign guy, come out and actually put real glass tube neon with a 15,000 volt transformer in the trunk. And what we learned is when it's not grounded to earth, an electronic phenomenon called corona effect will static charge the entire car.
Oh boy.
So every time you'd walk up to it, it was like shuffling through shag carpet and slippers and hitting a brass doorknob. You got the shock of your life, which had a great byproduct because I would tell people, don't touch my car or else. They'd go over there and they go, ow! But, just moving as you know, Danny, the car, you have a single wishbone frame and the car will flex moving in and out of a trailer. Well, glass doesn't flex at all.
No.
1 millimeter of movement, it shatters. So after repairing it 3 or 4 times, we decided we can't do the neon. It's just not going to work. And, so I use LED. It's called 50/50 LED, and it comes on a long reel. I think you get 5 meters of it for $50, and 5 meters is exactly the amount that it takes to go from end to end, from the beginning all the way back to the other end. And it's pretty low heat. It comes waterproof. And what we do to secure it is we use a translucent, super clear caulk, this Dynaclear caulk, and we just caulk it into place. And we have them kind of shining at each other so that you can't see the dots. But I've been looking at some other methods. There's a lot of other new technology out there. How about you, Joe and Brett? What did you light up your bands, and how did you do it?
So I'm actually doing mine right now. I'll have it done by next month. I'm doing the ice blue color, so you kind of get like the movie feel to it. I think it looks really sharp. I really like the idea of white because you can drive legally with it.
True.
But I do think maybe you get a little bit of leeway with cops, like driving around with the out of time plate. They don't really bother you. Maybe they won't bother you with the ice blue neons.
I've had some of my customers suggest that maybe I should just use RGBs, and then they can change it to be any color they want. But I might get in trouble for this. I'm such a purist. I don't want one of my cars running around with red or green or purple. You know what I mean? So I kind of become a snob. I recently had this customer who was asking me, I said, listen, I'll put white bands on. If you want it any other way, you can go to somebody else. If you want one of my cars, I only build them the way it was built in the film. And that's the only way I build it. I don't do special requests. If you want pink Flux boxes and red bands, I'm not doing it. So I've become a snob. I'll only do it that way. No offense to anybody else, but that's the only way that I'll do it. And that differentiates my cars from everybody else. Although if you use the proper high temperature white, it will appear slightly blue, especially on camera.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're using like a 6,000 or 9,000 really high temperature white, it should appear blue, which is why it appeared blue on camera. Anybody who's a video guy like me, if you remember your old video cameras in the days, you'd go outside in the sun, and out in the sunlight, you'd have to flip that little filter because everything would turn blue, So Brett was going to say something. I'll let you talk. You hadn't got a chance to talk.
Oh, no, it's all good. Yeah, I used, I like the ice blue as well. I think it's that nice middle ground, in my opinion, too. I understand why you use the white. I was actually thinking on my next one to do a combination of the two, so you could kind of do almost like the instantaneous spark and kind of get that effect triggered. So that was going to be my next build, was going to do both of those.
Yeah, I was looking into some of the animated ones that you could actually, that kind of had a chasing pattern. I thought that would be kind of neat, but again, it didn't do it in the movie, so I just didn't put it in there. Sometimes you can overdo it and turn it into a carnival, you know. But
Yeah.
but you know, yours is really a carnival because, like, do you still have the red capacitor in yours? You had a red neon flux capacitor.
Oh yeah, we got red neon in our flux capacitor. Yes, we do.
Yeah,
for various
I thought it was
reasons,
cool.
but I kind of like it. We've messed around with it. I had a blue one as well, blue neon bent in the flux capacitor shape, the Y shape. I was going to mention about the blue LEDs. I've got those real saturated blue LEDs, not ice blue, and you might have the answer to this, Videobob. In photos, it's like oversaturated sometimes, or in videos, it's like kind of burnout blue. And I think the ice blue might be a nice cure for that phenomenon. You know
Well, what I noticed is a lot of the blue LEDs tend to take on a more purple effect on camera. They start to look more because they have a lot of UV in them. So I definitely recommend if you're going to go with the blue, go with the aqua ice blue, if that's what it's called. That doesn't look so bad to me. I appreciate that one because it gets a little closer. Because the white wasn't really white; it was white with a bluish tinge to it. And if it just depends on how you photograph it. If you're photographing it and you white balance to it, they're going to come out white. But if you're using the natural filter, they're going to look bluish, you know, because of the spectrum that they're on. You know, not to get too off the tangent here, but there really is no such thing as a white LED. All white LEDs are made up of red, green, and blue.
Right.
Real quick, I want to bring up, just because he's been waiting, and I know he didn't have a lot of time, I want to bring up a friend of mine here. This is Carl Zeeler. Carl, you ready over there? You're over there hanging out. Are you driving? The dude's driving. Are you paying attention? I didn't know he was driving when I saw him on there. There he is.
Yeah.
You have your sound on. So
Yeah. I have headphones on. So.
Are you driving? You better pull over. What are you driving?
No, I'm Porsche Macan.
So I got to brag on Carl just a little bit here. Carl has a toy company, Nostalgic Toys. He's an inventor. He's a
I can't
TV
see
pitch
everybody
man.
else. I can only see.
Well, I just got you up there. That's why. Here, I'll bring everybody else up.
Oh, all right.
I do
There we go.
solo. Carl has the distinct pleasure of being the very first Delorean Time Machine of a Videobob car. He bought my very first ridiculous car.
I remember.
All
right. So I got it on eBay, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, it's at this guy Vinnie Paul's house. You got to come over to Vinnie Paul's house and pick it up." I was like, "Wait, who's Vinnie Paul? Wait, oh, I know Pantera. Whoa, that's crazy."
I had to park it over there because I was moving. And I didn't want to put it in storage, so I kept it over at my buddy Vinny's house. And you actually got my Back to the Future pinball machine too, as well. And but you have a collection of cool cars. You also have a 89 Batmobile and some other cool things. And so you use the car for promotion. This is one of the things we were going to talk about. You know, you have your toy company and your other brands, and you take it to toy fairs and things, and you've shown it off. And how big of a difference of an impact did it make for your business as a promotional item?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. I definitely saw that impact the first year I brought it to Toy Fair, and I remember because I told my parents. I remember being back at Universal, and I was like, I told my parents, and we were there. I was 12 years old, and I said, one day I'm going to buy that car, and they're like, you're crazy, you're nuts, like. And I was like, I will. I'll figure it out. And then so I put it in my booth at Toy Fair, and I wrote it off as a prop. And so it stayed. It's obviously a company asset, but I mean, it's awesome because now I get to like my childhood dream, and it obviously helps attract attention at trade shows. So for sure.
Well, you've had a lot of fun with it, and I also enjoy every time I go to certain places seeing your stuff, like going to the checkout and I see some of your toys or whatever for sale there, and I'm all the time texting him, send him a picture of his display. We'll talk about all your toys, but you have some really neat stuff, and so I have to thank you for being the first Videobob Time Machine owner. You really kind of started me, I guess, in business. The crazy thing that had happened is you know, I didn't set off to be DeLorean Time Machine builder in business. I just sold the car because I needed money at the time. I'd gotten divorced. These things happen. You have to sell your stuff when you get divorced. And so I had sold the car, and I had opened up a restaurant in downtown Dallas, and I had been doing that restaurant for almost a year. But what had happened is the ad that I had put up for the car, the YouTube video, had so much constant. I'd get emails from people going, "Could you please do this again? Could you build another one?" And finally, one day I said, you know, I'm going to close this restaurant. I'm going to go rent a space, and I'm going to start doing these cars. And by the time car number 2 was done, orders for 3, 4, 5 were already in. And it's been nonstop like that ever since. We just finished our 34th car. And the crazy thing about it is some of you are only owners, but some of you are also builders. And Danny, you say you did 19 cars. And then there's other
18,
people out there. You know, we have other people who build cars, and they've each done, you know, something 10, 20 cars. So collectively, I mean, we've all built over 100 time machines, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how many are on the earth.
I tell people about 100, you know, over 100 now at least.
Now, what do you say to people? Go ahead, Carl.
Did you guys all see like what that one auctioned off for in Cleveland
yesterday? Yeah,
112.
Well, 12.
That's pretty
112,000.
Wow.
But does anyone know who built it, or was it just a collection of different builders? Or I'm just curious.
I think some people were saying that it was built with parts from Gary, Bruce, and a couple other people. I think it was Paul Casey out in Las Vegas had built it. I think that's the story. But he just kind of cobbled it together, you know, and it wasn't complete. When you look at the interior of it, the wiring hadn't been done. It was, you know, I'm not dogging the thing, but it wasn't a complete car. And that's the kind of money, that's what I get for one of my cars if you're using a premium DeLorean. You know, that's what's really
crazy that sight unseen that it went for that kind of money. Like, that's just a good thing.
It was
it
was a used car dealership in New Jersey that bought all 3 of them.
Yeah,
what was it?
Yeah, he also bought the Ecto-1 for $200,000, which was not a correct car, and also a Batmobile, '89 Batmobile. I don't know if it was a towel one, just like yours.
No, I don't think it was. Judging by the sides. So
none of them were in great shape. But hey, you know, this is great for us. You know, what's changed so much is when I think I showed you my car for, what was it, 40, 45?
Yeah,
the
45.
Whole, you know, and at that time you could buy a DeLorean time machine, or not a DeLorean,
15, 20.
You could buy a DeLorean for 15 to 20,000. 20,000 was a really nice car 10 years ago, and now I'm seeing cars on the regular 50,000 to 75,000 for a premium nice DeLorean. You know, what are you guys getting for a really nice DeLorean there, Danny, at your shop?
Right now, a certified car that I'll completely go through, we're getting around the 60, 65 range. And that's what they're going for nowadays. You cannot find, you know, a decent DeLorean with, you know, a decent frame and panels on it. You can't get for less than 20 anymore. You know, the old days where I used to buy them for 5 or 10 grand all day long, those days are gone. It's harder to find.
I think that we're going to see in the next 5 years DeLorean selling for over 100,000 on the regular.
Absolutely.
Stock DeLorean.
Absolutely.
I actually made a video exactly about this on my YouTube channel, and if DeLorean actually comes out with their new DeLorean, right, those are going to be over 6 figures right there, which is going to drive up demand for all other DeLoreans as well, right? If a new DeLorean just made with new old stock parts is worth $120,000, why is my mint condition DeLorean worth much less? And then the other thing is, like, millennials are reaching their prime earning years, right? When they're 40 to 45 years old, that's when they can actually afford the third car, and that's what the DeLorean is. You know, no one's getting the DeLorean really as their primary car. It's not a good car to drive for that every single day. So it's the kids from the 80s that are now of age to actually afford it, and now there's a supply and demand problem.
And you know what? Good point, Oliver. You mentioned in the private chat. I haven't been monitoring the questions on the thing because we've been talking. That's why I need to get for my viewers out there. I need to get a producer and also someone to help, because a lot of the other people do shows like this. They'll have somebody on a shared screen going through comments, helping with the graphics, everything, because I'm doing everything myself. So sorry. So those of you who are watching, want to get your comments on. I am going to go through some of your questions and comments, And because I know I have something called Super Chat on, which is where people will pay for a comment, which is strange. Nobody's done that yet, but you always have to make sure and take care of that. There was something I was going to bring up and I forgot because that distracted me. Joe, yes, I'll put a link to the video that you made in the description of this so everybody could check it out, because it was a great video. It had a lot of us in the video, and it was all about, kind of what we're talking about now, except less live. I remember I was going to mention, talk about what Danny was saying a minute ago, not to name drop, but I had built a car for a basketball player named Tony Parker in San Antonio. So the guy had a lot of money. He was married to Ava Longoria, who had bought him as a gift a mint DeLorean that had, I don't know, less than 1,000 miles on it. And he brought it to me with his American Express black card with no limit on it and said, "I love what you do. Build me a time machine. I want the best of everything. And I want it by Christmas. I'm going to take it on the Jimmy Kimmel show." So no pressure. Well, when James and Steven from DeLorean Motor Company Houston, when they found out that I had taken this museum quality, mint condition, 1,000-mile car and drilled 1,000 holes in it, oh, they were pissed. And I said, well, you shouldn't have sold him the car. If it was that important, you should have kept it in your showroom. Because, so do we as time machine builders, do we have a moral responsibility to not use good cars? Is that...
A lot of people think
I think we should honestly use better cars. I know the old style used to be find the biggest piece of junk DeLorean you can and drill all the stuff into it. The only problem with that is, when I've had and done it for people on their piece of junk cars, they have so many problems. Now, keep in mind, they're using it for events, they're using it for shows, it needs to be dependable. It needs to be nice. And so, back when my very first car, that car was wrecked and totaled, had a salvage title on it, and that's what I built. But nowadays, I want to find the nicest car I can and make it a Back to the Future car for dependability, number one. And number two, if I'm ever going to resell it, which I seem to do every one I build, I sell it at one point. But, I want something nice. That's just the way I think it should be.
I got a lot of respect and admiration for people who have the means to take a sad DeLorean and make it a good DeLorean. That's the story I love to hear over and over again.
The car that I built for, almost said it, the car that I built for the unnamed theme park in Orlando was a car that we pulled out of a swamp. And whoever had it had modified the frame because they had tried to put in an old 70s Cadillac V8 front-wheel drive engine in it. And the entire rear bulkhead had been cut out, and the entire electrical harness was gone. So the car was never going to be a DeLorean again. It had good body panels, had a good frame, but the frame had been modified, had no electrical system. The tub had been modified. So I thought, this is a perfect car. No engine, no transmission, no drivetrain, no gas tank, no electrical system. We ran wires to the headlights, taillights. And I actually put a bunch of cooling fans in the car to run air through the dash and out the rear bulkhead to try to get some of the moisture out because I knew it was going to be out in the elements. And so I bring that up because I try to use a bad car when I can. But if you, as a customer, bring me your minty DeLorean, I am going to drill holes in that left fender. Which brings up next subject I was going to talk about. Let's talk about the non-destructive methods. I know there's a lot of people who've done a time machine that did it reversible, didn't drill any holes or do any structural damage to the car. I think, Oliver, you did yours pretty much this way, right?
Yeah, ours is reversible. Now, I'll preface this by saying that I've seen Chris Nicholson, who is a stainless steel artist with repairs, fill holes an inch or two big, and you'd never know anything was there. It was like an antenna hole. So I don't think when people say, "Oh, you're destroying a DeLorean," you're really not. I think just short of running it off a cliff or something like that, but. We just did ours reversible because I know, or at least I have intentions of the car outlasting my lifetime. And it might be that somebody in the future would like to have a DeLorean that isn't necessarily a time machine. So you don't have to drill holes. There are ways around it, but and to do it safely and securely. But it's just a choice, really.
Well, here's
I
a
actually
question
had-
for everybody: has you ever heard of anybody going back? You know,
No,
Right.
once you're a
do
time
that.
machine, you're never going to be anything else.
But again,
It's
like
but
that
again,
one-
time
I'm
machine,
talking.
you could-
I'm talking our lifetime, our generation. You never know what the future holds. Which brings me
That's
to
true.
putting Danny on the spot. What does the future hold for these new DeLoreans, Danny?
Well, as you can tell, that the that law that was supposed to let us build brand new cars with brand new VIN numbers, unfortunately, is stalled, and that's without that law. It's if we can't do it. Will there be something else later on? We're looking at every avenue to do that, but there's a lot of companies right now that were waiting for that law to redo the Ford Mustang, redo the Broncos, and redo all these classic cars, and they can't. They are all getting together right now and getting ready to sue the federal government over this, because yes, they've given us the VIN numbers, they've given us certain rules, but they haven't finished it, and nobody in government wants to do that right now. So, whether or not our company will get involved in that, I don't know. Our main concern is keeping the DeLoreans that we have right now on the road. We've been investing tons. I know that Steven is investing tons in parts and things, that more stuff is coming soon. So we're kind of looking towards that right now, and let's just see what happens. If that law passes, we'll re-look at it. But until then, we're kind of, our hands are tied. We were all fully gung-ho, ready to go. I mean, Steven was going to, start, he had the assembly line ready, all drawn out. He was going to start doing them in there in Texas and, hire a whole bunch more people. And, it was going to be great. But until they can pass a law for us and let us use the brand new VINs, we're stuck.
Seems
Hey,
like
Danny,
history
am I-
repeats itself with the DeLorean. It's always a challenge to get it going, isn't it?
A little bit. And with this law that was going through about getting the classic vehicles back in a limited number, the DeLorean was the one that piqued everybody's interest in it. We'd walk into different congressmen or different things. You mentioned DeLorean, and they go, what? That's that.
Yeah.
We were the company that everybody got excited about doing this. And you've seen tons of things on media, and everybody's been going nuts about it when they heard about it. But until the government does this, we're stuck. So
Yeah.
in the meantime, we're just going to keep reproducing parts and keeping the stock cars going. And we're busier than ever. I mean, this with this virus thing going on right now, it's actually raised the number of cars coming in, because people are at home. They're tired of looking at their cars in the garage, and the people that are at home also that really want to work on their own car, they're buying parts like crazy. So we're busy, and we're going to keep going.
That's great.
Well,
hey, Danny, am I
think that-
correct that you do one-offs when like a VIN is destroyed from a fire or something like that? Then that basically it becomes a new DeLorean?
I
Yeah,
lost
I don't know. Oh, he lost audio. He was asking if I think what you're asking is can you reassign a VIN number if a car's been completely destroyed? I don't think that they can. Danny,
You can't reassign it, no. But you can
you
take
can do what's
car
called a
that's,
salvage or a rebuild title.
Yeah, but basically, what they used to do in the back in the day when Steven was doing new build cars, they were taking a car that's fairly low mileage, but needed a lot of work, and they would just go through and redo the frame, brand new engine, brand new brakes, brand new transmission, and basically call that the new build car back then. And that may be something we go back to. Who knows? I don't know, but
Well, I try to
if-
tell people that when they get upset about the time machines destroying the DeLoreans out there, I remind them that it's less than half of 1% of the cars ever produced. And
Right.
if we really wanted to, through fiberglass and stainless steel repair, you could revert the car back to a stock DeLorean. But, in that same tone, I don't think Caitlyn Jenner's going back to being Bruce. So I think everybody who has the car is going to stick with it as a time machine, because I think Back to the Future is going to be one of those movies that, just as we still listen to Mozart and Beethoven today, Back to the Future is going to be around 500 years from now, at least in concept. And if this car still exists, which it quite possibly physically could as a stainless steel car
Right.
in a museum somewhere, I think that it's completely possible, just as we still celebrate Romeo and Juliet, that Back to the Future in that car could be in a museum somewhere. Nobody's throwing that car away.
No, never.
Agreed.
It's the popularity of this car as business that I'm in and seeing it, it goes bigger every year. And because of all you guys too, it's just, the more we're out there showing off our cars, the more it helps the DeLorean itself.
So Carl's still waiting in the wings. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Carl?
No.
You're just enjoying the watch.
I just realized, Danny, is that the owner of DMC?
No, I'm the service manager of the California store.
Oh, gotcha. I thought it was because Bob, you introduced me to the holder of the IP a while ago at some show, and
that was Steven.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Anyway,
he's
the
my
English fella.
Yeah.
Well,
and that was
so here,
and you introduced me to Catherine DeLorean too. Like that was pretty cool.
That's right. My wife's a personal trainer, and she used to train Catherine when she lived here in Dallas. She lived in Grapevine, so we got to be close with her as well. And so when you bought my car, shortly thereafter was the DeLorean Car Show, 2008, I think it was, which was
I rear-ended you with hauling the car.
I was given the Josh Haldeman Award. For those of us who have been to the DeLorean Car Show, Josh Haldeman infamously drove his car through the hotel into his room.
I remember that.
By accident, yeah. So they would pass out an award for whoever crashed their DeLorean. And my own DeLorean rear-ended me because Carl ran into the back of my car.
It was raining. This was
so
Kentucky,
I still have...
right?
I think it was the Kentucky show. That's right. Good memory, Oliver. Let's see. This guy says, even in the future, nothing works. It's true. I've been looking for some anybody watching. I am monitoring your questions. So if you have a question for any one of us or something, people are making comments, but not necessarily making questions. So if you have a question for any one of us, I'll put it up and we'll try to answer it. Let's see. I'm trying to remember all of my notes that we had. We talked about some of the hardest things to do to build. How about just owning and driving the car? I mean, all of us have experienced the dreaded moment that you have to pull over and get gas.
Well, it depends how you perceive it, because I mean, in today's world, like you enlighten. So like, I can't tell you how like lit up people get. And what's kind of cool is like I'll go to a parts store, I'll stop at a gas station, and then the amount of cars that are like and like pull off and like go in and then they're like they're asking you questions. Like I'm always totally supportive of that, and I know it has to get it super annoying, but I only do it rarely, like where I bring it out. But the way it lights people up is I just love that. I don't know, I love that. I let him sit in it. Like I'm like, go ahead, sit in it. Like let me take a picture. I take multiple. Yeah. But I live in Ohio.
It's really like driving, like being an instant celebrity.
Well, now, is there anybody here who ever came back to your car and found somebody sitting in it?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
sitting in it, sitting on it,
like that. Just miles of people in it. Even taking down the little cord in between the strikers I put, and they'll be sitting in it. And, like,
when they're disrespectful, it's a little nerve-wracking. Like I had a guy at a trade show once just open the car. I had my hoverboard sitting there, foam, and so he just plops down in. He's a YouTuber, and I'm like, bro, you're being totally disrespectful. You didn't even ask me. You just plopped down on my hoverboard, and wow. I'm like, get out of my booth, dude. And
Carl, remember when you called me because you needed a Mr. Fusion because you went somewhere and somebody yanked the entire thing right off the back, and there was just a bolt sticking up out of the back of the riser.
Oh wow!
They just grabbed.
I have to. That was. I went out and I was like, who the hell would do that? And then you go back to Pulp Fiction. Like, I wish I could have caught the MF for doing that, because like.
It wouldn't have been worth him doing it if I could have caught him.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you drove it in. Then you crashed it into the wall of your garage.
Yeah. Just
this was your fault.
That's because it was raining in his garage. It was raining.
So don't let Carl drive your car, is what I'm trying to say. A comment up here. Let me go find it. This was a good comment. This one was, Paul says, how long does it take to convert a DeLorean time machine? Now, I'll go first because I've kind of gotten this down to a science because we have all these jigs and things. And I'm also outsourcing. I can build a car in about a month, but we have done it in as little as 10 days working full-time overtime.
Wow.
What's the fastest some of you guys have done your car, the longest rather?
3.5 months was our build, but also 20 years because you never stop working on it.
That's true.
I've been collecting pieces since 2008, actively building since April 2019, and I'll probably be done to most people's standards like Halloween, but to Oliver's point, it'll be many more years until it's perfect.
Yeah, it definitely takes a long, long time.
Yeah, I bought my car in 2014, and it was 95% complete in 2015. That was my goal. So.
And you're building another one right now, aren't you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I had to sell my other one to help out family members. But after I sold it, it killed me to sell it, really. And I vowed that I was going to make it again, and I was going to make it even better. And it's definitely going to be better than my last one. So that's probably that's probably how it goes for everyone, really. You always learn a little bit more as your build goes on. And I know things now that I didn't know then, and I know how to make things now that I didn't know then. So my entire rear deck is pretty much going to be 100% real, which is awesome to me. So
Danny, how long does it take you to get a car out? It used to be about 6 months.
That's about how I do it, because honestly, the Back to the Future builds that I do are honestly on the side. I'm the service manager, so my main concern honestly is the 30 to 40 cars I have in the shop at any one time. I try to get those done, take a few days of that week. Okay, work on the Back to the Future car. I'm doing one for Discovery Channel right now that I'm going to, next week, I'm on it. It's just going to be that's all I'm going to do. Tell Cameron, answer the phones for me, leave me alone. I'm going to do this. And that's what I have to do. I have to really try to set aside the time to do it nicely, do it right. And, 6 months, unfortunately, and that's what I do.
You want the car on the Discovery Channel to run really well. So please, yes work on that one.
Yeah.
When I appeared on the show Pawn Stars with the Delorean Time Machine a few years ago, that the owner of that car now is Martin Sanchez. I think many of us know him. He's a great guy because he also owns the Screen Use Christine car, which is at the Peterson Museum. But interesting enough, when I did the TV show, you can't ever trust these media companies when you do these reality shows because they'll do little things to you. So at the end of the episode, they had I was sitting in the car was idling, had the air conditioner on, but they inserted the sound of the car not starting. And I remember, I was so mad because they just totally put that sound effect in there to make it look like the car wouldn't start. And that's not what was happening at all. But the DeLorean has always been the butt of jokes. And even in the film, the car would stop running. Yeah, Marty would bang his head on the steering wheel. Well, we're talking about building the DeLorean Time Machine, how long it takes and all that thing. I want to bring up a really special guest and a really good friend of mine, somebody that I've known for a long time. And this guy is really important to the story of the DeLorean Time Machine because his company, Filmtrix, is the company that built the original DeLorean Time Machine for the movie. I'd like to bring up our friend, Kevin Pike.
Kevin Pike.
From Filmtrix. He built the original DeLorean Time Machine for the film.
Hey, Kevin.
Back to the Future. So, hi, Kevin. Well, glad that you could
everybody.
join us.
Good to see everybody.
Now, you and your team, how many people did you have on your team at Filmtrix back in 84, 85 when y'all were building the car for the movie?
I did it all by myself, a little bit every night.
You had, I think you had Mike Chaffee working with you, who worked on Knight Rider.
Mike Chaffee's a nice guy. He came as a art kind of coordinator to help interpret the sketches and make sure our builders were, had that artistic touch to, their hammers and soldering irons. He came from the art department. He wasn't really in the special effects of the props, so he couldn't put anything on the car. I mean, he could help advise and he select some pieces and give choices and things like that. a lot of it, some of the creativity really came from our crew in a lot of ways, because they knew how to do these kind of tasks on their own. And the company brought in Mike to help give us a marriage between everything that needed to happen for the story and along those lines. And then our guys kind of helped advise, well, you can't put that there and that won't work. And that's going to be in the way of the engine or whatever it was. But he certainly had his hands all over it as far as what should go where. And he's just a wonderful guy in every way. He's so sweet. And we were very lucky to have his input in everything we did. Crew, we probably had about 20 guys. 10 mainly worked on the car. We had the other group were working on different gags for the show, which was another part of the movie other than just working on a car.
And all that.
And we had electronics. You probably know Bill, Jim McElhan. They were the main electronics builders, and they were full-time. The big speaker was made by Billy Lee, who's one of the excellent mechanics. His father, Davey Lee, ran Disney Studios in the effect shop for many, many years. And the idea of making the plaster screed out of an aluminum bar and running it around. And then we had to foam it 2 colors so that it came up gray when it broke. Bob was very concerned about that. He didn't like the fact that when it would break, it looked like styrofoam. So we had to dye the urethane. That was Billy Lee's bucket, and one of the best mechanics you could ever ask to be on your team. We worked together on Jedi and Shrinking Woman and many other films together with Roy Arbogast. Great guy, Billy Lee.
Now, how long did it take you guys to build the 3 cars for the film? Or how long did you have, and how long do you think it took?
Well, obviously, you don't start on all 3 cars at the same time. You begin on the A car, which was the first one that was going to be seen on screen or have its picture taken. And then, of course, everything that we learned how to do on that car, we started to repeat on the B car, which they said, we'll never see the inside of the car. And that was on the first day. By the second day, they wanted to see the inside of the car. And so I said, okay, then put both cars back in the shop and we'll just match them side by side. And then you can take a picture of them in another 10 weeks. And then it's like, well, how can we do this? Because we need the car to do running shots. And so the B car was it didn't have much of an interior. And so they gave us a bunch of Polaroids and we could use that. And they wanted it back as fast as we could put the interior together. It was crazy.
So did you build kind of the A car and then make the B and the C car sort of replicas of the A car? Was that kind of the transition?
Just like you build a house, you build the basics and then you add the details, and then you're going to add another room on. Okay, let's see what we got to do to make it similar. So we obviously had to get the A car ready, and with the A car came all the decisions. Make a B car. It's kind of like making the A car all over, and then realize that now you have to go backwards and do the interior. So it's like when fellas make their replicas of the car. It's easy to copy because the A car was already made, but there was always the cheat for it because we always had to figure out what they weren't going to use that car for. And oftentimes the A car got a cameo shot that it was being used on, and they wanted to do something now in the B car that really didn't have what it might have that was working so accurately and perfectly to tell story like the A car. The C car was another kettle of fish because it was going to work towards the end. One of the first times we used it was when we did the driving across the farm field with the scarecrow hitting the windshield. You might have heard the story. We did it on stage 12 over there. We continued just to slice the car. I always say like a sausage. And we took out the back window. We could shoot over Michael's shoulders. We could see everything on the dashboard. We could move it over his shoulder for the next shot. Dean Cundy was a wizard with all these camera moves that Bob was creating. And it shot against a rear screen projection that projects just the opposite of when the camera takes a picture. So when one shutter's open, the other one's closed. And if you can see the screen, the movie on the screen, through a camera lens, you're not in sync. So once you get all that worked out, and then you rock the car and give it a little motion, and you put wind and you put some dust, and then all of a sudden you have this track that comes at you with a scarecrow on it, and then you blow an air cylinder, and it jumps up on the windshield, and then you have another fly pole that can fly the dummy off of there. Makes for a pretty exciting shot. I don't think anybody could say, oh, that actually happened out in the cow field. No, it happened on stage 12 at Universal.
We got a question from a viewer from Jason says, I got a question for Video Bob. Noticed on the A car, the bottom of the vents that covers the real taillights are covered by a blackout plate, and your builds don't have those. I'm curious why. Well, all of us as time machine builders and owners, there's things that were done on the movie that were for the purposes of film, and those vents were designed to, look like plutonium, stacks and they didn't care about the taillights, but we have to drive the car on the street. So I modify the rear vents so that you can see the rear taillights, but I've seen other people do the rear vents correctly and then add additional taillights to the outside of the vents. I think you did that, Oliver, didn't you? You added some.
We didn't cover our taillights with that plate, and we do have secondary brake lights and things like that. We have marker lights on the sides we've added to the Flux boxes. Again,
that's a great idea.
It for our purposes.
Yeah, I've thought about adding some sort of side marker blinkers to the Flux boxes to the sides, because you always have somebody driving next to you in your blind spot taking a picture of you with their phone, and you got your blinker on trying to get over. So you either have to, you have to slam on your brakes because you can't speed up because it's a DeLorean. So you have to slam on your brakes and get behind them if you want to exit. So Kevin, earlier we were talking about color. Oh, go ahead.
Let me just add one point to that on those vents. The vents were designed to be an integral part of the car. It just wasn't like a slap-on kind of thing. There was purpose in every piece of mechanics that we put on, and I'm sure you've learned that by your hands building it. But the design was that little wraparound feature where a lot of people cut them off flush at the top of the light. We actually had to add that extra piece and make it like it hooked on and was a big, stable part of the car. And what we did, if you saw the A car to any degree, we cut it off and we had a marriage plate behind it, and then we drilled and tapped countersink screws and put that piece on. That's great. It looked great, and I thought it was. I think it still looks better than a lot of the modifications that some of the replica builders make. But okay, we got to get.
I hate
into
when they
the
cut them
engine.
short.
If you want to open the engine when it's overheating.
If you want to open the engine, okay, now we had a mechanic on the set every day. We had a mechanic's truck equal to what the Doc Brown van looked like. And a guy named Bill had every tool that you'd ever want in there. And he knew the engine inside and out. And they took time. They'd say, we want the car this weekend. I said, okay, fine. And they would go ahead and take the Allen wrench and take those little screws out and take those little clips off and open up the engine and then go through the car and know that they didn't have to worry about it for the next week, because the car never really got a lot of drive time. If you just look at the movie, right? You drove a little bit of Griffith Park out of the camera, and it drove up onto the finish line, and then some running shots with the B car. But it never went 3 miles in its whole career on the film.
I only built one totally accurate.
So there's the deal. And when we did it that way, we knew that it was encapsulating the car and the engine. And if we ever needed to get at it, we had these screws that we could take out and open it up. That was the deal.
Yeah. No, I only did that accurately once, and that was the car we did on Auction Kings that you appeared on the TV show with me. And
yeah, you guys auctioned it off. I saw that.
Yeah, we auctioned it off on the TV show, and
I still get residuals. I still get residuals from that show, Bob. Thanks for having me out there. It meant a lot to me.
But, I learned quickly that, it's a DeLorean. Sometimes you need to get to the engine in a hurry, and those bottom sections have to be removed with, 12 Allen head screws, and you got to have a drill, and it's just... And I've seen
that's why I don't build them that way.
Yeah, I've seen people have sliding rear decks and things. But, Kevin, earlier we were talking about colors of the car. And this has always been a point of contention. We were talking about the Flux bands. I do them white LED. Of course, the Auction Kings car had real white neon, just like the original Screen Use car. Many of the other builders like to do blue lights. What is, you can confirm what you used in the movie, and then what is your opinion of the different colors that we use now?
I guess you're just asking me questions to piss me off. Is that it?
I don't. Okay, we can go with no comment.
Wait, let me comment. But it's like, let's put a mustache on the Mona Lisa. You know, in one way, it's been 35 years of flattery that we're sitting here on this Sunday afternoon and talking about a car that we made for a movie that still touches everybody. I'm thrilled to death to have the any attention from that hard work.
Yeah.
And then when see they make adjustments, I can respect the fact that you're not making a display car for your own personal collection that nobody's going to touch, maybe like a Bill Shea or something like that. I know you drive these and you have to access the engine and it has to be legal to certain degrees and it has to function easily. I don't think you could go as far as we drove with glass neon and phosphorus tubes.
Oh.
And you'd probably break them, as we occasionally did in the rigors of shooting. I get that. And I get that the LEDs certainly work perfectly for that. I think they're a little bright. I think they're a little bright. And I don't like them when they're blue. I think that's a sexy, cool thing if you got a 57 Chevy or something that's streetwise. But the DeLorean only flashed a couple of times the blue. And that was to come.
Oh, he blew a gasket.
Time with Malcolm McDowell, you'll see that the car goes out cold and comes back hot. And in a unique way, they said, let it go out hot and come back cold.
Just like your dates, Kevin.
Can you hear me or not?
Oh, you had cut out on us. We got a little bit of a bad signal. We can hear you a little bit. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, Kevin.
Okay, we can hear you.
I guess you can still hear me, right? You can still hear me?
Yes.
I don't hear anything.
Can you hear us?
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Am I back?
You had said that
You're back.
You had said that the car goes out cold and comes back hot.
You're right. And if you look at Time After Time, the Malcolm McDowell movie, we built a machine for that. That car goes out cold and comes back hot. It was kind of interesting. I like the fire that it's orange and then it goes to blue. That was a good touch. Yeah. And the ice was a great gag. But ILM and the visual effects, they put in that blue for the cold part. And I thought it was great, but it doesn't mean all the lights on the car look blue. Lots of times we photograph at night. There's a nice bluish tint to everything. Just part of being the nighttime light, moonlight kind of thing versus hot sun. I see all that. But when they start making them look like candy cane barber poles, it subtracts from the other elements of the car that also are attractive to look at. And when the vents get painted all black, I don't know where that segue came from, but it stops looking more like the original and more like somebody else's interpretation.
And speaking of the color blue, you and I went back and forth over this a lot, and a lot of people have had this argument over the Flux boxes, the boxes that are mounted to the fenders in the top of the car and under the car, and whether or not what color they are.
Yeah, what color is real on that? What color is that? I totally agree. Like, I'm curious.
What box are you talking about?
The midnight
boxes. Like, are they light gray, bluish?
What we call the Flux boxes that the bands are mounted to, with the wires going into. Now, I've always thought that they were a blue color.
I am so impressed with everybody making up new names for
what did you call them?
Parts of the car, and then I get all these questions from Australia. And what is the SID? The SID is that's Star Trek. What are you talking about?
It's actually the metal bar
holder. The lights behind.
That's the technical term.
Yeah.
Okay, the metal bar holders.
I don't know, but
somebody called them junction boxes.
The wooden boxes that are on the fenders.
That's right. That's exactly what they're. Okay, let me explain. The wooden boxes, whatever you want to call them, junction boxes, the ends of, they were metallic blue. Now listen to this. We put them on the car metallic blue, and it was other than the green tubes, it was the only big contrast to kind of a quieter look to the entire car design on the outside. You had the yellow handle in the plutonium chamber, but everything was kind of in the gray scheme of things. Obviously, the aluminum and the stainless, all of that, and aluminum tubing. And they painted them a metallic blue to give them some pop and some accent. And they came in and they said, we don't like those. Now, we were never allowed to take pictures. If somebody took a picture of the shark, Stephen went nuts. He got to see the ET when it was open and exposed. He went nuts. When they told me I got to build a car, they said, you better not let anybody see it. And if you ever take a picture, you're in big trouble. So that was a no-no. And we had these 110s with flash cubes. And when they would go off, I'd have to reprimand somebody that was taking a picture. Now, they didn't like the blue, and we painted them gray. They want them in a neutral color, and they came out gray. And that's pretty close to the pictures that you can take of the car when I went up to Universal to determine what car it was and show the condition of the car. And they were gray. Now, again, they may photograph with a bluish tint, maybe the way that Dean tinted the lights and stuff at night or something like that. But they were a gray color before it ever got photographed.
Hey, Kevin, was that flat, or I mean, like what was the sheen on the box? I'm curious.
It was dull. It might have been a satin finish. It didn't have a gloss. It didn't have anything like that. The boxes were made out of wood. They were made out of poplar wood, which is a hardwood, and we made it that way to last for the show. We never knew, so we didn't make it out of pine or anything like that. And it was built by Dave Wishneck, who was my shop foreman, who worked with me probably for the entire time I had Film Tricks there in the shop. And he designed it himself pretty much from some ideas and had to cut an individual bunch of pieces. That little wedge is something else that's all glued on, drilled, and got to be this hard thing that could help hold the structure of the flux bands, as you guys call them.
I think your explanation about the photos and the change of the color,
wood boxes,
because there was some Polaroid production stills taken that were circulated that a lot of us used as reference, where the boxes were clearly a metallic blue, and then I guess they changed later in filming. And those Polaroid stills that we had found that we were using as references, I think that's why we were using those colors, because in the movie with the go ahead.
There's no blame except the fact that they were made out of wood and they were painted gray, and they were never photographed when they were blue. And the ones that you might see that were metallic blue looking from some escaped shot was from the shop. That's not the way it got photographed ever.
I'd have to go find the picture, but there are some pictures of them blue. And one of the things that also made us believe they were blue was the car at the end of part 3 that is hit by the train. The parts that were gathered up on the tracks were sold to Jay Orberg, and he used those parts to build a replica car that he sold to the Hollywood Casino in Tunica, Mississippi. When we inspected that car, we found that those boxes that were on that car were definitely metallic blue. So they could have been some leftover boxes that got put on the train wreck car from maybe the B car or C car or something. I don't know, but the car that was hit by the train was the B car.
No. I agree with you on all of that. And I agree when you say they looked blue, not that they are blue. I'm okay with that. Because of lighting, you can make a gray, a bland gray look bluish. And I'm okay while you guys got off the rails. I can't speak for anything that was done on 2 and 3, and I never will. Okay? I don't know if they painted some metallic boxes there. I didn't paint them. They didn't bring me in to advise on how we should make the B car for the train wreck. That never happened. So I can't tell you anything about that, whether they looked blue, photographed blue, or accidentally got painted blue, or purposely got painted blue. But they were gray wood boxes.
Democratic boxes.
Now, do any of you guys have any questions for Kevin while we got him on here? We have his ear.
I'm just impressed that you had so many plates to spin in the movie. Not only were you responsible for 3 cars, but you were responsible for building specialty
Oliver,
props.
your speaker's not working, dude.
Oh crap! Hello.
I can hear him.
I
can hear him.
Oh, you can?
I can hear him.
I couldn't hear him either.
I was just saying that you not only did you build 3 cars, but you had to build all the specialty props like the can opener and clocks and toasters and things. And you had to be responsible for lightning and wet downs and rain and all the elements of wind. I mean, that's an amazing amount of work.
Yes, and thank you. You take Christopher Lloyd and you just hang him up on that clock 84 feet up in the air and let him hang there while you take a picture of him, and you can't drop him. And so there was a lot to it. I mean, it was crazy. It was so crazy that it would take a lifetime to explain the whole show to you of everything that we had to do. We built an entire set for an opening sequence that they never used, about Marty getting out of detention by using a book of matches, some chewing gum, an elastic band, and a magnifying glass that he sticks to a sprinkler head in the classroom that makes them go off, and then had to protect the entire stage 12 with a weir tank and visqueen and camp and material to waterproof it. And we built the whole thing, plumbed it in, solenoids, all rigged electronically, and all the hoses and all the water at the right temperature and ready to go. And no, we got another idea. Okay.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we did that you'll never understand. There's a lot of things that we did with another actor and had to start over, which you'll never understand. There's a lot of things that we did at night. So we had to drive 60 miles through traffic out of LA to get to the site, work all night, and then drive back into that same rush hour traffic and try to sleep when you have a gardener and you have daylight and you have you don't understand the work that went into that movie. We went and scouted, I don't know, Sonoma, where the trains were, and we rigged this entire idea about Marty's going to skateboard over the tracks. The train comes, Biff Brody's, and they take his door off, and it's like, I'll get you yet kind of thing. We built a train arm right to train standards. We built the stairway out of steel so it was strong enough to take off the door. We put all that together in the shop. We had blinking lights and everything working on switches. And they said, well, we're not even going to go on location. We're going to do something else. Okay. And then that became a manure truck, and the skateboard with sparks. The manure truck and the skateboard is so seamless. Let me just do this. It's so seamless and such a brilliant editing job that when you got all through, but you don't realize that we had to make curb kisses every time Biff's car goes up and down, and we had to do rigging for the skateboard, for even with the stunt man. There was 150 shots right there that each one had to be groomed to camera and make it work. It was crazy.
All right, I'm going to put up on screen here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it if you're just using your phone. This is a picture. This is supposed to be a pre-production photo that I found that many of us have used for looking at the back deck.
See the boxes? They're metallic blue.
And so this is what I'm saying. I think that this is a pre-production photo or a during production photo, and maybe they were change colors. Or the reason I say that is because, well, think about the timeline. Look at the back of the car. You've got that orange tube there in the middle, which indicates this is before the scene with the lightning rod attachment and before Mr. Fusion. So this is during a form of production before those scenes. Were they all shot in sequence, or were they out of sequence?
No.
Uh-oh.
That shot was taken in my shop.
That might be your keys right there, over there in the. It might be you standing there with those Wranglers on. I can't tell. So,
dang.
You're breaking up a little bit.
That's pretty cool.
Sorry.
Why
I
would I
think
have
your connection is a
to
little
take
bad.
A picture of a car that I owned, essentially. It was in my shop. Every time I wanted to look at it, I would just walk out to the shop and look at it.
So, are you saying somebody maybe snuck this photo and they weren't allowed to? Uh-oh, I think. Can you hear us okay, Kevin? I don't know if he can hear us.
I can hear you. You got a little fuzzy. Okay. I couldn't hear everything.
Sorry, I think you got a little bit of a bad connection on there. But anyway, I think that answered some of the questions, though. I mean, I'm using a kind of a pale grayish blue color because I'm trying to satisfy everybody's feelings on the subject, because this, for a decade now has been an argument over the color of the boxes
Okay, well,
and
let me
color
end it.
fans.
Let me end it. Let me end it. Make
Here we
them
go.
gray, and then you can satisfy me. That's it. All right.
I'm going to continue adding just a little blue in there, just to piss you off.
Okay.
It does depend on who you're trying to satisfy. Obviously, metallic blue was what someone wanted initially, and the powers that be said,
What
no,
Pantone?
we don't want that. We want gray. So you know,
You're
it
right.
depends on who you have to answer to as to you
Yeah.
know what color you're making.
I have a feeling Videobob will be down to the actual Pantone color.
I'm happy that you're happy that you're building cars. You're having fun with them. I've enjoyed all of you at one time or another, and I hope we can continue to have as much fun as we do with the cars. And you know, Oliver, I got to say a shout out for you and the team Parkinson. Your work is special. To get is a wonderful quality, and you and Terry have done a great job. And I love to see the car for all that you guys do. Danny, you're building some great things down there. I think I got to come down and see the one you're doing for the Discovery Channel they talked to us about.
Absolutely.
You guys.
And I love answering all the questions. But I'm always admired by, they have their own design ideas sometimes, and they call things by names that I never heard of, and I don't know what they're called. I call the thing behind Michael J. Fox's head the Christmas tree because it looked like a Christmas tree. You know.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that because on the TFC drive switch in the center console, there was a thing called Xmas tree, a switch there, which turned it on. So that explains that. Because there's one shot.
Well,
at the,
I gotta be honest. Excuse me. Do you see that Dymo tape label anywhere in Back to the Future?
Yes. So this is what happened. So in the scene, Griffith Park, as Marty gets back in the car and the car doesn't start, they're shooting through the left-hand or the right-hand door in there, and you can see that drive switch box. And I think when they reformatted the film, they widened that shot. And there's one frame where lightning strikes, it brightens up the whole thing. And if you pause it at the right moment, you can see that DFC drive switch clear as bell, and you can see all the writing of Dymo labels on the side of that box, which I believe was the B car. And it said, it didn't say neon, it said Freon. There was Xmas tree. There was Upcon for
Well,
Uppercon.
Freon, the Freon was for the exhaust out the vents.
Okay, so that activated the solenoid. But you had a guy sitting in the seat with an actual, like a CO2 cylinder. Or that might have been you.
Okay, that man's name was that man's name was Sammy Adams. I wouldn't do that. And he had a manifold that was wired to the propane bottles. We got custom propane bottles made that were small, and that CO2 was for his protection, fire safety protection, before we lit up the fire that came out each of the wheels. They didn't feature it well. We did get it to work. We had a Ford coil on each wheel. The water from the wet downs to reflect the lights that Dean always likes gave it trouble because it got it wet and it kind of shorted out the solenoid. But we got to do some passes without so much water per se, and we got it. The gag worked, but it's sometimes gags are camera shy. But the guy sitting in the car is Sammy Adams. Extinguishers for his. He's got a 4-gang manifold, and that turns on the gas to each solenoid.
So hold on a second. I think we tapped into something I never knew about. So you're saying that green covered switch that said Freon was an emergency fire system in case the car caught on fire that could activate?
No, Bob, that's not true.
I thought that's what you were saying.
The one that used. No, that's not what I was saying. I was saying the extinguisher in the car with the guy in the front wheel well was for his own fire protection.
Okay.
The switch that said Freon was for the solenoids for the CO2 to come out the vents. Now, it was
where did you put the tanks?
Car. The hook gag was on a B car because while they're shooting with the A car, we're going to have a hook mode. So they give us back the B car to the shop so we can build all the design for that. The which tanks?
Where the tanks that had the CO2 that
Which
sprayed out the
tanks?
vents.
Which
the CO2
tanks?
the tanks that came out of the CO2 out of the vents. Where were the
In the
tanks that
front
held
of
the
the car.
CO2?
Or on the off-camera side, outside the car.
Okay, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
There wasn't an exhaust shot when the car was moving.
That's true. It was like a 3/4 rear. Yeah. Okay.
There is a shot, if you look in the teaser, where the exhaust comes out and the car appears to be moving, but that's not true. What is true is that the dolly pulled back over the top of the car, and then we exhausted it, and it looked like the car was driving away because we had issues with the humidity, lack thereof, out in Lancaster when we shot that teaser, and we saved that shot for the stage when we did that. And all we did was press the exhaust, and they dollied back with the camera over the top. And that's the only one that appears to look like the car's moving when the exhaust vents. The vents exhaust.
That teaser trailer is really important to us builders for research because it's the only time you get a real good overhead shot of the plutonium chamber lit up, which amber, and then also what we call the wormhole emitter, or what Bob Gale started calling the tachyon generator, but the little binoculars looking thing that sits on the very, very top had
Really?
two light bulbs in it. It's the only time those are lit up.
Can I ask a question about that?
Okay.
Where's the original?
I don't know. I think it might be on the A car. We don't know. I have a casting of the original part. Joe Walter told me that
I haven't seen it.
But I was told that it was.
I'm breaking up. I haven't seen it since I left the car.
Got a little bit of a bad connection. But if you can hear me, I was told that it was a prototype part, that there was only one of, and that it was casted, and the casted parts were used on the other cars. I don't know. So I don't know if the one that's on the A car at the Peterson is the original part or a cast part.
The one we put on the... No. The one that was on the car, that we put on the car, was a surplus part. And it was made out of metal. It wasn't cast. I think that somebody decided that it'd be great to take the real one, cast it, and put the cast back on in its place. But I just got to tell you, I was really fond of that part. I thought it was kind of like the cherry on top of a sundae. And I thought it looked really cool, like it could pick up the radio waves or like send something out. And I'm sorry that it's missing, because every time I've seen one since, it always looks like some kind of replica that doesn't have that kind of finesse that in the individual design of that real part, or whatever it's called.
Yeah, no, we've never figured out what the heck it is. But we do know that it had a little Pioneer speaker grill on the front.
Yep.
So because it says Pioneer right on it. So that made it really easy for us. But the hard thing was, we come up with a lot of these names. Some of these names are the actual items that we've reverse engineers, and then other things are things that just got made up by fans over the years. But certain things had actual mil spec, part numbers on them, or the brand name of them. Like, for instance, what we call the Janitrol heater, which is a aircraft heating unit that goes on the back. Then there's an orange silicone tube that went to a 1967 Sikorsky helicopter, and then I think somebody figured out the turbine for the plutonium chamber went to like a GE jet engine, but the base of it was just like a 69 Polara Dodge or something. I think it was the hubcap off of one of the cars around the shop or something. I don't know. Where did that come from?
Okay. It could have come from anywhere. You go to the dump, you go to the parts store, you go to electronic stores, you go to the aircraft surplus place next door, you go to what was Lukey's and Apex, and you just start putting together. And you got to give people credit for thinking this hubcap and the way that it radiates in its design would be the perfect aesthetic for the plutonium chamber. Okay, so why don't we just use that? That looks cool. wasn't like we sat down and made a list. You know what would look cool? Those
No,
turnbuckle
Kevin, I was curious.
valves. Go ahead.
Kevin, I was curious. Like when you guys are building like a prop like this, do you just have like a whole room of stuff, or and obviously you just said you don't kind of pre-plan it, like you just kind of go through and then so your creative minds have to be at like 1,000%. Like, okay, that would look good for what I'm gonna take it over here, but it's not really pre-planned. Like you just have this room of stuff.
Appreciate the fact that we don't have appreciate the fact that we don't have a blueprint. We don't have anything that specifically says make this. They just gave us a DeLorean.
Yeah.
And then somewhere between the sketches, Mike Chaffee's artistic touch, our guys have been building props for, their career, and they know the gag. Okay, we have to make a chest pack for Holmes and Yo-Yo, and it has to look like this, and it has to have blinking lights. We do this for a living. We build sets, we do custom props, and we blow stuff up. And in that arc of learning, we come up with, it would look good. And
that's super cool.
Part of the creativity and part of understanding mechanics. And I thought the guys did a terrific job all the way across.
I have a question,
Kevin.
If
you worked for me at that time, your contributions creatively would all be.
Question I have, and I don't know if this is something you've ever talked about or if it's something you can talk about. What was the budget for the 3 cars? What did the movie company pay to have a DeLorean Time Machine built back in 1985?
I can only tell you how much it cost to buy the cars.
Okay. Well, that probably wasn't a lot because Don over at Apex sold that stuff by the pound. So
I'm talking about the DeLoreans. The first one was 18,000. The B car was 15,000, and the C car was 12,000. Now, somebody somewhere probably has the financial records that special effects assigned, between cut checks, petty cash, and purchase orders. This cost the cars this much, and then there was a labor, but the labor is muddy because in the shop for all the guys working, some of them were on the car, and some of them were building a speaker, and some of them were rigging other things. So I don't know if there's really a finite number and I certainly don't know what my end budget was. I was kind of cavalier about budget and more about delivering the goods because I thought I would win in the long run if that were to happen and give them what they want as opposed to staying on budget. Not that I didn't try to economize, but I don't know what the cost of the car was to build. I can say 10 men for 10 weeks is a fair labor number.
Okay. All right, well, what it costs and what you build them, I guess, is what... I just wonder how much the value has changed over 30 years.
Bob, I didn't bill them. I got a price for an hourly wage at the time, and I got paid for the shop rental, and I got paid for my trailer rental at the time. But I didn't flat bid that. I never flat bid anything in a film. Commercial, but not film.
It's crazy how the DeLorean maintained its same value almost from the time they sold it new for 20, 30 years. It kept almost the same price. It looks like, let me pull Brett out. Looks like he lost the signal. But yeah, they stayed at 15, 20,000 just like forever. Only up until recently have they really started increasing. And now we're starting to see DeLoreans selling on the regular for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. It's strange how there's just certain things that kept its value. I remember when I was a kid in high school, you could buy a burger for 99 cents and you can still buy a burger for 99 cents. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay, I think the movie. Smaller. I think that the movie has a lot to do with the fact that the DeLorean became special and collectors got involved. I don't think the car would have been anywhere near its notoriety if it wasn't for the movie. And I'm glad that there's a lot of great DeLorean owners, not replica builders, but just DeLorean owners that have a great time with their cars.
We have a question from a viewer. Wesley wants to know, did the engine used in the movie car, was it the original DeLorean engine or was it upgraded? I know that there was sound effects added. there any modifications to the DeLorean?
There was no modifications to the engines of the DeLorean. And I know that I had heard that they used some high rev Porsche engine in the sound effects. I don't know if that's true, but it was a rumor. I assume what they did was they said, let's go to stage 12 at the end of the show. And they had me bring a car over and they said, we want to go through the car bite by bite. And I said, okay. And it was like, open the door, slam the door, do the right side door, open the door, slam the door, you know, get in, wear jeans, rub your ass on the leather. Like when Marty jumps in, press this button, open this, pull the visor down, do the shift, press the pedals, steer the, everything. Every single bit they recorded. The sound engineers won the Oscar. If you have any trouble trying to understand what they do, listen to the speaker gag hand by hand. Switch, louder, switch, louder, switch. 11, they're at 111. They did such a fabulous job. Now, did they add an enhancement to the engine rev? Could be. I don't know. Do you like the way your car sounds when you rev it up? Okay. Is it good for movies? Maybe they put some splash on it. All right. I don't know what engine they used or what the real soundbite was called that they might have modified.
Okay. There was another question that we had another viewer on here. Let me see. Now
you worked on a bunch. I don't see Danny. Where's Danny? He go?
He lost his. He said his phone died. His battery died. He didn't charge it up. So he's trying to charge it up or go get another computer. I think I forgot what the question I was going to ask you was. Oh, so you worked on a bunch of other movies. We're talking about Back to the Future, of course, but Last Starfighter had a car very much like a DeLorean Time Machine, with the gull wing doors. And then, of course, you famously started on the movie Jaws, right? That was one of your first projects. Now, did you win any particular awards for Back to the Future?
Yeah, I won a Saturn Award.
The Saturn Award. Now, I'm not familiar with the Saturn Award. Who gives those away? Does that come from Uranus? Let's take a look at it. Let me see.
It's right there.
That's cool.
Cool.
I got my camera backwards. How's that?
There it is.
Nope.
There you go. You've got some, what are those? Emmys and things? All kinds of stuff. Kevin flexing. Oh, look at that camcorder over there.
This is a Clio with Michael Bay for commercials. There's a BAFTA. Oh, right here, I got a British nomination for Back to the Future. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
Wow.
Now,
that's cool.
On Last Starfighter, I just did they're coming out with a 4K release, and I did a audio track for our work on it. That'll be one of the clicks you can do if you want to hear my commentary when it comes out. I think it's within the month. And we just did a recording of that last Monday, I guess. And you'll be able to click on Kevin Pike talking about his work when you roll the new 4K. It looks great, by the way.
So send me that.
That was my first big show. It was,
Let's see here. We got Juan. He goes, any chance what tips can you give me to build a DeLorean in your own garage? Well, my first tip would be don't.
Well, my tip would be I don't have a garage, so you can't build it in my garage.
Wesley here, he wants to know, he says, do you have any original parts of the DeLorean or anything used from the trilogy? He wants to know if you have any mementos from the movie.
I have all 3 DeLoreans in my basement, and I sit in them when I'm lonely.
Now, if you still had anything from the movie, I would have weaseled it out of you by now, or one of us would have, I'm sure. Or the Shays. The Shays would have bought it.
You remember, Bob, when we went to where Film Tricks used to be, and we stood in the middle of the macadam? What did you see? Nothing.
There's nothing there. It's all gone.
They came.
I don't think you knew back then that this was going to be one of the biggest movies of all time.
I had the. I had a lot of props left over, and I had the.
I think we
No,
lost
I
you a little
didn't
bit
realize it, but I knew it was a good movie when I read the script, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I knew that from. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
How about now? How about now?
You're
Okay.
good.
So, I knew that the script was great, and I knew that the car was a big star of the show. And I made it a condition of my taking the show that I wouldn't do it without, being the one that was going to make the car. I had worked on Last Starfighter, and Gene Winfield made the star car, and he did a great job, but it didn't have a lot of things that they wanted the car to do. And I kind of felt bad that I couldn't affect everything that they wanted on a car I had no control over when it got built. So I didn't want to get caught in that. And a lot of times those specialty props fall under our umbrella. And I just said, look, I want to build a car. And they said, okay.
I just wanted to mention for our viewers real quick. So Danny Bakken said his phone died. That's why he dropped off. And Elliot Hansen said there's a storm and the power just went off at his house and he lost his internet. So that's why we lost those two guys. That's Orlando for you. Orlando weather is something terrible. And, as you know, Kevin, I was recently telling you about the car that I shipped to Orlando that's been sitting outside since March has just gone to heck. We tried to do everything we could to waterproof that car. And I wish you had left the back window in the design of the car.
So I'm glad that you'll be able to make another car for them as soon as they need one.
Yeah, about every 6 months from the way it's going, because it's already a rust bucket. I can't believe that this particular theme park that won't be mentioned, but they're pretty universally known. They take their famous movie cars and they just leave them outside for the rats, the birds, the sun, and the rain. I don't get it. Greatest movie of all time. It's a park bench. Just put it outside. I don't know. So, but yeah, keeps me in business.
Jumping back to a previous conversation. The Flux boxes. This photo from part 2. If you look.
I don't think we can see that good enough. Let me pull it up here. Unfortunately, you don't have a good enough connection, but it's hard to see. I see what you're trying to put there.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard for us to see the color, though. Yeah, that's not working out.
It looks very midnight blue to me. So I'm thinking maybe the part 2 and 3 cars ended up being that color. Part 1 was repainted gray, like you said, Kevin.
So real quick,
I don't talk about Back to the Future 2 and 3.
That's fair.
So if any of viewers have any questions for any of us, please post them on the chat window. I'll be happy to get to your question. A lot of people are just making comments. I'd like to see some. This person, Audrey, says Florida's having some hurricane weather right now. So hopefully Elliot's going to be all right. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Audrey, I hope you are safe.
That's right. So if you have any particular questions, do any of you guys have any other questions for Kevin or me or each other in particular? What are you working on? Any other cars, Kevin? Any other time machine projects? I know you've helped other builders and fans out with some of their projects. You got anything going on right now?
I'm not personally involved in any car. There was a possibility of help fill in some details on a build in France, but unfortunately the virus has put a hold on that. The money that the guy would have made is all evaporated just because his business died. So he can't A, buy the car, and B, afford the replica build. And so I'm not doing that. I travel around a bit these days with help from fans, and that was going to be a nice build this summer in Bretagne, in Normandy area, but not happening. Mostly I work with writers, as you know. I'm doing a lot of audio commentaries and radio shows and same like this. Apparently there's been a lot of buzz around things, and I've got a publicist involved to help me coordinate everything, but I've got a lot of that going on. But physically, no. Mornings I help writers finish their script. So if you know anybody that's trying to write a script and they'd love to have some help on how to do it right, make sure it's perfect before they pitch it, by all means send me an email. I'll be happy to help them. I do it a lot. I do it pretty well. and the scripts turn out really good, and they can turn around and try to market them.
Well, I definitely, on behalf of everybody here, I have to say we all owe you a debt of gratitude for building such a cool car for the coolest movie ever that changed all of our lives personally on a different level.
Actually, I have one question.
I think my crew.
Kevin, for Bob.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
Joe
In
had
the
a
movie,
question.
when
can't hear
Marty
you.
is going down at 10:04 p.m., right behind the rear tires, there's like a bright orange light that flashes. Have you, Bob, done anything to actually drive with something like that on there? I thought that would be a cool effect to maybe the tires look like they're about to spark.
Oh, me? You mean, have I ever put the fire behind the wheels? No, I haven't done that.
Yeah.
How did you do that, Kevin? You used
Not
propane
necessarily
or
fire, but just like the orange light. Like it looks like it's gonna do something.
That could be done. That could be done. Kevin, you told me one time about some gel or something that you used to create the fire, and then but there was also fire shooting out of the fenders of the car, right?
No. What you have to understand is that gag didn't work as well as one would have liked, but it was always just a little kiss to start the idea. And I can believe that ILM might have enhanced some of those shots. I don't know. I don't study each frame like you guys have to, but that's probably part of what was there. Some element that was visually added by ILM and their crew up there.
Okay. Let me see. How about any intro?
Let me answer this. What we did, but we did have sparks that ignited on each of the tires. All four of them had something in the fender well. And we had, like I said, we had trouble with the splashing from the wet down. And you'll see later there's a guard there. There's an aluminum plate there to protect the car from the fire and to help retard the splashing from going onto the electrodes. We took old Ford coil solenoids and ramped them up with transformer voltage from inside the trunk. And that gave a large spark every time we hit the button. And then we ran the gas out there and they would light. You could do it in the parking lot, fine. You could run the car, fine. You put it where anything was water, it kind of shorted out the electrode and gave us a little trouble.
No, I've got a great question, actually. I don't think it's been talked about. A lot of fans know that about a third of the movie was shot with Eric Stoltz and then reshot again. How much did he work with the Time Machine and you? Did you guys do all that parking lot scene with him before?
Well, what happened is when they made a change from one actor to the other, they brought us all together and they told us what was going to happen. And it was a big traumatic event, not only for the talent involved, but for the crew. I mean, it was devastating for us. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Could the movie be canceled? Would other actors get replaced? Could I get replaced? Where are we going here? And then all of a sudden they got the signature on the page. But I remember standing in that parking lot when Kathy Kennedy was telling us that, and there was people that had tears in their eyes because it was just so emotional, devastating for us to have that happen. Okay, so let's start all over. Some of the gags that we shot, we had finished and thrown away. Others we had to resurrect right away. But certainly Eric was involved with a lot of the shooting out at Twin Pines Mall, and he was in half the scenes between the car and Chris. So yes, we did work with him. We did other shots in the movie, not always out there at the parking lot. We did some other day stuff work with him or some other night stuff work, but not necessarily at Twin Pines Mall. But that's where it ended. It ended on the day that we were going to attempt to do the spinning license plate gag. And David McGifford, a good friend of mine, I just talked to him recently, and he talked about be ready for anything. Bob's going to reinvent this order, and he's going to spend a lot of time working with Eric tonight. So whenever he wants whatever you're going to do on the special effects, just don't go by the call sheet. Always have it ready in case he turns around and he wants to do something. He never did. He just shot Eric to death, and we wrapped early, and that was it. And he took that film, and I think he went to the big wigs with it and helped make a decision. that changed the movie for us, and we started all over.
I think what I was wondering is
if
there was any special effects or things that you had done the first go round that didn't make it into the second filming with Michael, or, you know, because it didn't work, or you couldn't do it again, or, you know, if there was anything that was different in the scenes that Eric was doing versus the one that Michael was doing with the car.
So you have to apply the logic to how you're going to figure that out. So let's see. I see a movie, and now I finally witness everything that we did and see the story and enjoy the film. And now I'm supposed to remember everything that Eric Stoltz did that wasn't on the parking lot. I can't even remember what he did on the parking lot. So it's very hard for me to have that at my fingertips to say, oh, they got rid of the shot with him and the Tigers. What? No, I don't remember those, Bob. I can't tell you that.
Okay. This is a question that gets asked all the time from Scott Delorean, he calls himself. Will we ever see any of the footage with Eric? I think that would be up to Bob and Bob. And I think they've said that out of courtesy to Eric, they don't want to show it because they feel that it may not be flattering. But I would love to see that video. And I don't know, maybe Eric one day would give him permission.
Yeah, I've seen about 4 seconds.
I don't feel it's good for anybody. It's just something that didn't work out. He didn't have the comedic chops, apparently, right? I didn't get to vote or anything like that. Nobody came to me and said, Kevin, what do you think? Or I just do my job, right? And they told me then not to talk about it. And it was only like 30 years later when they started even talking about it on any level. I guess there's a punch or something in the diner that might be his hand or something like that legitimizes that he's on the film somewhere. But I don't know. I just kept moving on. When Michael came, it was an entirely different dynamic. What Michael did was, when he was in the car and he said, I want to know about this switch, and I could tell him everything and press this button and do this, and your elbow's going to hit on this every time you shift and you'll be pissed, and here's where you're going to make the time machine go on and off. He got it. I mean, he was alive, animated, and in sync. You could talk to him. You had any troubles, you let me know, blah, blah, blah. Kev, help me with this, blah, blah, blah. He was an alive, interactive, energetic actor with a comedic bent that made the movie everything that it is. And
did you have any particular interaction or work? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. There's a little bit of delay, so sometimes you can't tell. Did you have any interaction with Crispin Glover? Good or bad, or anything weird?
Yeah, watching the dailies. That was the best thing ever. So we had to do a test of the LEDs, the letters and number LEDs, right? And we got super high bright LEDs because we wanted to be able to have all the data that was going on in the car available to photograph well and for the audience. So we got all these cardboards, black and white, and we built this schematic with all these different kinds, sizes, different degrees, and the ability to turn them up and down. And we shot our camera test with them on the stage with Dean Cundy from every angle, get an off angle, see how much brightness detracts and things like that. So we had that. So I got invited to come to the dailies to see the results of that. And, we'd have a little tete-a-tete afterwards about good, bad, no, yes, brighter, darker, smaller, bigger, different colors, whatever. But while I was there, they ran all the camera tests of other actors that were trying out for different parts in it. And they had Crispin Glover. And I got to see his screen test before he started. And it was just the craziest thing I've ever seen. He just was his own character on his own, in his own world, on his own way, the way that he would move his body and try to engage with the camera to do something as simple as stand here and turn around slowly and, bend your head and all that kind of stuff. He was just this wildest cat that I'd ever witnessed. There was no rhyme or reason to him. He was just, the easiest way to say it is crazy, a nice crazy. To work with, it was fine. There was a lot of gags between him. the big one was maybe dropping leaves next to him when we were up in the tree when he was playing with the binoculars, because you realize he doesn't have a lot of interaction with it. He doesn't drive the car. He doesn't go on the skateboard, doesn't play guitar. So effects wise, no. But watching him on all the shots and all the scenes is wild.
Now, being that you were doing props and transportation, did you work on Biff's car also, or the Doc Brown car? Did you have any, his 1955, what was that, a Cord, or what was that car that Doc Brown had in 55? It was the yellow car that he had, that he loaned Marty?
It was a 39 Packard.
Packard.
It was a 39 Packard Ford. Yeah. That was
and then
tricky. That was
Biff's
tricky.
convertible and the manure gag and all that. Any stories about any of those things?
Yeah, here's one. You ready?
Okay.
On the Packard. That Packard was an often used go-to car by transportation departments throughout filming history. The car show, any car that had antiques in it, that was usually one of the cars that was in the lineup. You often see it. So they chose that one for the deal where Marty and Lorraine are in the car. And so Bob, you got to be ready. Bob wants to shoot here, and then he wants to shoot a little more from the front to the back to get on Michael. And we got to roll the window down. Well, the door's in the way. Well, you got to take the door off. All right, so, okay, here's the facts. We're standing by. Let's take the doors off. Now, what in your imagination could go wrong with taking a door off a car on the set, on location, at night, so Bob could take a picture? So then there's like this wire chase that goes from the door to the inside of the car. And we just take our wrenches and we unscrew it. And all of a sudden, all this fluid comes out. And in 5 seconds, we realized that the power windows were on a hydraulic loop.
Oh, yeah.
So what's your problem? Just wipe it up. That spot is right where somebody's going to get knocked out and has to lay down. Oh, my God. It was like we destroyed the universe, right? So we, did everything we could to quickly mop it up, plug up the hose, get the door off, right? And, of course, then he has to have it back on. And, more switcheroo. Thank God the windows were down or up or wherever they had to be, because we wouldn't have time to charge the lines again. But you never know what's going to bite you on the butt when you're doing something and you're late at night out there in Whittier, California, and you've just disconnected hydraulic windows.
That's crazy. I've learned about some of that with some of these other old cars that I have the hard way as well. That
the DeLorean, the bit with the manure and the car sliding in, there was nothing bad about that at all, other than all the timing and all the choreography. And we had to make a dump truck full of manure looking substance, but that was all in line. The slide, that was all on cables, all timed, rigged, coordinated, the dump side and everything. And they only had one take at it. Right. We could go back after the main shot and add some more of the manure around them to give for that close up when he talks. But that was a big deal, and it had to work. It worked first time rightly. So I don't have anything really anecdotal to talk about with the manure, but it was sure a funny gag. And,
but that manure truck was more of a wagon. It was more of a wagon, than a hauling truck than a dump truck, right? So I've watched that scene. And it's amazing how they just bump the rear of it and it all comes out.
We put the ram on there and we did all the mechanics to it.
Now, Oliver, you have gotten to work with, you've raised so much money for Michael J. Fox, and you've got, I guess, to spend some time with him. Has he told you any interesting stories about the film that maybe the fans don't know about that you can share? What is that?
An air compressor, I think. Honestly, no. We have had the honor of being with them on several occasions, but it's always pretty brief, and not a whole lot of time. We don't hang out. We're like this, and I'm over here, and he's over there. So, but no, what I tell people about Michael is that he's nicer than you think he is. He's smarter than he appears, or that you think he is. He's funnier, faster, quicker wit, and very genuine, which is just a rare combination of things.
Well, I don't think anybody has a bad word to say about the guy. I've met him, and he was absolutely awesome. I've gotten to meet almost everybody from the film or that was a part of the film, and so far everything's just been fantastic. I really enjoyed going to see the Back to the Future musical in Manchester. Saw you there. It was so great seeing you and your lovely wife and all of our other friends. I was hoping to have some of our friends from England on, but it's just too late for them, I guess, and I wanted to have Gary Dunster on there with us. I need to do another one of these shows, a UK version where I do it really early in the day so that I can have my Australian and UK friends on at the same time. But I was hoping to get some of them on. But the Back to the Future musical, I don't think I'm giving away too many spoilers because I think people know about it. But wow, that was really impressive. I mean, Kevin, did you think that maybe 30 years later they were going to be having Broadway shows? I mean, all the things that have spun off from the film, be it cartoons to comics, musicals, video games. I don't know. It blows me away. Sometimes I wonder, like, when it's ever going to taper off. It never does. It just keeps coming back stronger and stronger. I don't even think that's a question. I'm just talking.
You should do a show just on the musical, Bob. I think that deserves its own show.
I should, and the Goldie Wilson character is from right here in my neighborhood in Oak Cliff, which was great that we could connect.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kevin. We can hear you.
I think the Goldie Wilson character is the only American actor.
Just a couple of points.
Music.
I had the pleasure of working with Michael on another show. He developed a show called Hench at Home.
Okay. I think there's a little bit of a delay. I think, Kevin, you might be getting like about 10 or 20 seconds delay. I think that's what comes in. Let's see. And
what I was saying is I was just saying that the delay's tough.
Go ahead. We're waiting on you.
That's okay. I just want to say a couple of things. One is I got a chance to work with Michael again on a sitcom called Hench at Home, which he had developed with his wife and Craig Bierko for ABC. And it was a hockey-based theme, go figure. And, one guy was a hockey player out of work and the wife had her other job. And it was always it was sitcom stuff. And he had developed it, and we did a bunch of little sight gags for it where he uses the hockey gloves to get something that's burning out of the oven, like oven mitts and things like that. It never got picked up, but I had time to reconnect with Michael on a one-to-one other than at an autograph signing show in 2009. But, just the sweetest guy. And this is after he kind of had to step away from Spin City and this and that. And we had a chance to have our one-on-one because we had that close association of working intimately together on Back to the Future. And that was just, it was great to have the reconnection and be a part of something that became so big.
Well, we've been on here now for 2 hours, and I think we may have answered all the questions that we might be able to. I don't know if we have any other questions for each other. I'm on my 34th time machine. Danny's done like 19 of them. There's maybe hundreds of time machines out there in the world. And the important thing that each of us have to remember, something I always tell my customers when they take the car is that you have a great responsibility owning this car, that you're representing this great franchise, you're representing the actors in the movie and all the people who care about it. And every time you take the car out, you hear everybody's stories about how many times they saw the movie and what it meant to them. And those are the things that go into each and every car and every time that we go out in the car. And so definitely have to thank you, Kevin, for all the work that you put into it. I know it was just a gig for you, but it's something that's changed all of our lives and will continue to do so for a long time. So, yeah, definitely.
Well,
Absolutely.
Bravo to
I'm
you.
glad you
Sure.
like it. I'm glad you like it, and I'm grateful for the residuals that I get, and then how much extra I get every time they build a replica. I mean, that's money in the piggy bank. You know, I'm thrilled every time I see a new one. I don't care what color you paint it. I know.
Oh,
No, I'm kidding.
I'm going to share a private conversation, not without any detail, Kevin. There was one time you and I were having breakfast or something, and I was lamenting about some drama I was having with another time machine builder, and you said, "Oh, boo-hoo! Neither one of you a-holes have mailed me a check. You two guys are professional plagiarists. Shut up already." And I go, "You are absolutely right. I'm a professional plagiarist making copies of this car. I'm not claiming any credit or ownership at all." One time, Bob Gale chastised me and said, "Bob, make sure that whenever you refer to your car, put the word replica in there. You don't have a DeLorean Time Machine. You have a DeLorean Time Machine replica. The Time Machine is at the Peterson Museum. Don't ever forget it." And I said, "Yes, sir." So we get it.
I just want to just remind everybody that the car that they make is something that they could copy when we had to do all the creative to make the original. And I think that aesthetically, it's a wonderful car to look at when the replica is right there, even if you're right on top of it. It's just got so much going on. It just works on so many ways. You open up the door and you look at the interior, you go, wow, look at all this stuff. And
it's really held up to the test of time. You know, the
design
design
the right car
of,
at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, so many other future cars that you see in other movies that are supposed to be about the future, they don't hold up to the test of time. But here, all these years later, the design and the industrial look of the car, it really does hold up to something like if you saw NASA build something even today. It looks very modern, even all these years later.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've certainly enjoyed ours for about 20 years, and I'd like to say I've enjoyed this. I'm about to turn into a pumpkin now at the two-hour mark. So thank you, guys.
Yes.
It's been really great seeing each of you. Thanks for sharing your stories.
Hey, thank you, Oliver, for coming on. And I know where's
Terry?
Where's Terry? We should have had her on.
She passed through at one point. You'll have to review the footage. May have been Eric Stoltz. I don't know.
It could have been. Yeah. Before you go, I was going to say, you know, you've talked about you did sort of a reversible thing. Something you've done to your car, though, because what people need to understand is, Oliver, unlike us who trailer our cars to a lot of places, you actually live and drive in that thing to place, and you have managed to molest every cubby hole in that car and open it up. And I've seen you open your hood and start pulling, you know, like a clown car, just start pulling stuff out of tubs and holes where you've opened up the pontoons and stuffed your laundry in there and things. I mean, you have figured out every crevice that you could fit something in a DeLorean. Genius.
Well, I'm allergic to all synthetics. You know, who knows if they have cotton underwear in the future? So you got to carry it with you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Anybody else
it,
have anything to add? All righty, we'll pull Oliver out and we'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much, Oliver. Brett, did you have anything you wanted to sum up with?
No,
You
this
guys
has
can
been
always
awesome.
email me. Always email. You can always email me if you have questions.
Awesome. No, I just want to say it's been fantastic to sit here and listen to these old stories that Kevin has been going over. It's been fantastic. I learned a lot of really fun things about the film I never knew. So I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks a lot.
Hey, and you make some great
Keep in
stuff,
touch.
Brett.
Sorry.
He said keep in touch, and I said you made some great. You're making some great props. I'm loving the stuff you're making.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, all right, and Carl, let me see, pull you up here. So, Carl, thanks for buying my first time machine. Thanks for being a friend all these years. And I'm looking forward to. You got any new products coming out? Anything cool coming out, hitting the store shelves?
Okay, so pitch time. No, I no, but I was in the toy industry for the last 13 years, and now I'm in the candy business. So be sure to look out for Cap Candy and the Spin Pop. And yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Kids today are too lazy to actually spin their lollipop. He motorized the lollipop, so they press a button and it spins in their mouth.
Oh, dude, and not to mention, this is an old item that we're bringing back.
Uh-oh, you're moving around and we're losing your connection.
Million units in a year.
We didn't hear what you said because you lost connection.
Think that, like, yeah, it's crazy to think that like Spin Pop in its infancy was doing 100 million units, and anyway, we're bringing it back. But now it spins, it lights up with no motors. So anyway.
Wow. All right, well, we're gonna have you on the Videobob live show again. So thanks for coming on, Carl.
Yeah.
Hey,
dude,
hey, Bob.
This
Bob,
is super cool.
Bob.
Yeah.
Bob, is this the Carl that was with us at the car show? I think we're in Lexington. That we looked at his car and we judged. Yeah. Oh yeah, you got a plaque. Yeah, I think you took first place if I remember.
Ish. I think it was like
I got a plaque from him rear-ending me with the car. Remember, he ran into the back of my car with his car.
I think they gave me a participation plaque, and I thought it was like I won. But
you've been getting participation trophies for a long time, Carl. All right, man. I'll catch you later. I'll call you later.
Right, see you guys.
All righty.
Nice
Elliot,
talking.
Now I know the Corona thing has really messed up your gig. You know, you DJ. You still doing with the Kelly Clarkson show? Or is that still going on, or is that off the air? I don't watch the show.
Yeah, all the shows that I've been a part of are on hiatus right now. So who knows?
I know you've been bummed out. Maybe I'll come down to Florida and we'll go hang out. You, me, and Daniel.
I'm here.
You got anything?
What, Kevin?
You got married.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He likes to stay up on current events, you know. You got anything going on you want to plug?
I mean, all of our work is, you know, my entire career is dependent on being in front of large groups of people. So it's going to be a while.
Are you still performing over at Disney? If I come down there,
yeah, they brought us back on a limited basis with the notes to not draw a crowd. So, so I'm playing music. I play a lot of really bad music and make people walk away. So it's totally opposite of what I'm used to doing, but it's
time to get out there and dance, folks. Let's hear some Wilson Phillips.
Yeah. I play a lot of Don't Stand So Close to Me. So
all right, I'm going to hit you up. I may come down to Orlando here in the next week or two.
Let me know.
I don't know.
We'll see.
So. All right, man.
Good to see
all of you. Okay. My pleasure.
And Kevin.
Keep spinning.
Well, thanks for coming on. Yeah. It's I've known you a long time, and it was great having you on. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the stories.
Yep.
And we'll have you on again.
Yeah. Funny thing is, I'm getting slammed right now. I'm doing a podcast a day. I got a publicist that jumped on board. He's got me booked for 5 in the month of August already, and we really haven't even started to do any work yet. I did this last Starfighter. I did 41 videos that I shot in my house for this Pistoia Comic Con. There's a comic there, right? And I did 41 videos for their Comic Con on 5 different movies. It was just endless, and 2 cameras. Netflix came up here with 2 cameras and a recorder and a technician, and they had me do, theirs was Back to the Future. Danny's working on a car for the Discovery Channel. They called me for the deal. It got shut down on the virus. I don't know if he's still working on it. Last I checked, it was kind of not the rush deal that it once was for that guy, Josh. He's some kind of explorer, like ancient alien thing. And he never solves any crime, but Apparently, that was a show that we were supposed to do. We had one, the Reels one that came out that we interviewed at NBC, where they took me to Beverly Hills and did the interview last year. That's just come out, so I hear about that. I get all the usual autographs. I got a guy sends me a gift for his buddy who's getting married. That's the tail of the clock with the cat with the eyes and the tail from the beginning, and he wanted me to sign the tail for his buddy's wedding. And it's, you asked about why the film continues to expand. What, two things. One is you have the perpetuity of film. It's always around unless you shot on nitrate back in the 20s. The second part is other children grow up in the expanding universe, and mom says, go watch Back to the Future. Well, it's G-rated, and it's on TV somewhere every day on a lineup everywhere, and more fans watch the movie, and you cannot not like Back to the Future or the car or the good part and the music and the happy story. So it's never going to end. And the other part is that once they dig in to see that, oh, I worked on Back to the Future, the other part is that's not the only film I worked on. I just did this thing for Last Starfighter, but I get calls about, I just want to talk to you about the car. I go, what car? The DeLorean? No, the car. What car? The car from the movie The Car. Oh, The Car with James Brolin. Yeah, you worked on it. Yeah. And then it's like, what? You know, and they look at my resume and they want to ask me, you know, you worked on Marcus Welby. Yeah, I put wind on them when they came to the door, you know, shit like that. They eat up every, they do. They got me inspected, just like arguing over the color of the boxes. It's just, they want to hear every detail. I got a guy that's coming to the house. He wants me to sign some autographs. It's a paying gig. And he had a bunch of questions. Obviously, are the boxes blue or gray? And just a bunch of other stuff. He does Star Wars, which is for me Jedi, and Back to the Future. But I'll have other people talk to me for hours about Indiana Jones. I did one video about that, and right now I have 5 more lined up just in August. So it's wacky right now. I'm not making any money. You already know that. I live here. Well, I used to have a girlfriend who helped out. That's gone. So I've been alone for over a year.
We need to come up with some merchandise for you.
Over here. It's just awful.
We need to get some merchandise for you. You could sell, make you some money. If it helps, I got about almost 100,000 subscribers, and so we got some viewers for you.
I'd be happy if you had one of those animatronic dolls. That'd be great. Send her over.
I have to borrow the one that my employee Omar he loves the car in Jaws. Well, maybe he'll spare one of his blow up dolls, and we can send it to you. You build props. Build yourself a girlfriend.
No, I don't have time to do anything. All I have time. I want to get paid by the word.
Yeah. Well, you'd be rich by now. All right. Well, we'll figure something out for you.
I got stories to tell. All right, buddy.
Well, we're going to have you on again. Thank you so much.
Anything helps.
You're a dear friend. Love you so much.
Give my best.
Appreciate everything you do. Of course.
Rachel, say hi to Rachel. I love her so much. She's a great gal. Okay. Say hi to the guys. Okay. Ciao.
Alrighty. Bye-bye, Kevin.
Bye.
It's so great to hear from him and all these other guys. Back to the Future, a lot of people watch my channel. They see the other cars that I do. We talk about Rolls-Royce cars, tour buses. We talk about exotics. I did a television show called Screen Machines, which Kevin was on, episode 6. Kevin's been a part of this journey for a long time, because when I first started doing building the cars, I reached out to him early on. It was one of the ways that I managed to, do what I was doing, because in order to research for the car, what I would do is I would travel down to Universal Studios in Hollywood, and I would get a hold of people that worked at the park, and they would, give me their advice. They would let me get a hold of the car, let me take measurements and pictures. And I reached out to people like Kevin and others, and he really helped me along the way for a very long time. So I definitely owe him a debt of gratitude. I mean, this channel has been around since 2007. You go back, go into my YouTube channel and click oldest video in the section. Go back and look at some of the really old ones, and you'll see things that me and Kevin did like 10 years ago. Trips we made to where his film trick studio used to be, trips we made to hardware stores where we used to get the parts. So there's a lot of really cool stuff out there that we've done over the years. And, he's worked on a lot of other great movies over the years too. We just finished up our 34th car, which is going up for sale. Here, just a minute. Let me see here. Sorry, I'm like an octopus. I need a producer to help me because I'm answering fan comments. I'm running the whole technical show. I have people texting me. I have all kinds of stuff going on. So this is the very first one of these. We've gone 2 hours. We've had hundreds and hundreds of viewers. I can't wait to look at the analytics of all this. Let me real quick take a look at some of your viewer questions. Make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Audrey says, now I have to watch Screen Machines. Let me just mention Screen Machines was on in the United States on the show, on the channel Reels channel, and they don't put it online. If you live elsewhere around the world, it was on Discovery Channel, D-Max, Turbo, different Discovery Channel things like Malaysia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So depending on where you are in the world is where you might have saw the show, but it's not online right now, unfortunately. So, and I'm not allowed to put it online, but maybe you can find some. I'm just going to real quick double check, make sure I didn't miss a super chat. If I did, please. I think our viewer Sovereign Knight was the only one who did one. So thanks for that. We're going to be doing this every Sunday and maybe multiple times, multiple times a week. It just depends. I mean, maybe one day it'll eventually go to a daily show. But as of right now, I thought it would be a great thing to acknowledge my peers and my mentors in the Delorean Time Machine world. And there's some of you out there know me and have been around this game and the prop building world, know for a long time, where you have friendships, you also have rivalries. Nothing worse than the geek nerd rivalries. And I want you to know that I did in fact reach out to some of those rivalries and invited them on the show, and they did not come on. So if there was anybody out there that said, oh, why don't you have such and such on? I reached out to them. I sent them the link, and they decided they didn't want to come on. So I am not afraid to have those conversations because I'm not the only guy in the world that builds these cars. But I will say I've learned a lot over the years. You get into a competitive nature, and that, you start to get ego, you start to get pride, you start to be cocky about things. Then everybody starts throwing mud and oh, my car's better, my car's more accurate, and whatever. I just don't do that anymore. I just decide that I'm going to do the car the way I feel. I'm going to faithfully reproduce it based on what I learned from the people that built the original car. Bob Gale, who wrote the original story with Robert Zemeckis, Andrew Probert, who did the storyboards for the original car, and all of these people I call friends, and all of these people I work with. And, I'm a approved, bonded, insured Universal vendor. I also work with Sony Studios as well when they need things. And that is all because of those relationships. And Kevin told me something a long time ago. He said, just, some of the first cars I built weren't that great. And it's not necessarily because I made them not great on purpose, but we just didn't have the resources necessarily. But he said to me, Bob, don't be a hack. You have to do things right. Your name, your reputation is all over this thing. And every time somebody sees it, takes a picture or talks about it, that's your name and your reputation. If you want to get anywhere in this business, you have to do things right. And that really stuck with me. And I really tried to put as much time and effort into doing it right and doing it faithfully. And so that's why I don't feel that I have the right to have artist interpretation when I'm recreating the car that I didn't design, when I recreate Kevin's work. So I try to do it as, and I don't mean that as any disrespect or an insult to the other people who I don't think that they were doing artist interpretation. I just think they were working with what they had. You know, Oliver's car, he'll say, well, it's not screen accurate, but he worked with what he had, and he was on a tight budget, and he didn't have a lot of time. And the fact of the matter is that car has made more smiles and made more money for Michael J. Fox Foundation than any other time machine in the world. Probably the most photographed DeLorean on the planet Earth. So he does a lot of fantastic work with that car. So whereas maybe in the past I might have criticized something on it, oh, well, that's not the right this or that. It doesn't matter, really. What matters is, how does it make people feel? How does it represent the movie? How does it represent, you know, everyone's beliefs in that film and the car and how it makes them feel? And that's what's important. And that's why the work that Oliver and his lovely wife, Terry, what they do is so great. And all of the builders out there, all of us share one thing that bring us closer together. And that is, we all had this fantasy and this dream that at one time when we were little kids and we watched that car fly away at the end of the movie, none of this seemed real or obtainable any more than putting on a cape and flying away like Superman. And the fact that we can either build this car or own the car, even if I sold you the car or you bought it from somebody else, owning the car and getting to drive it and really live that fantasy is something that is unrivaled. And it's a sales pitch I use when I'm selling the car to somebody. I say, look, you know, for the price point of around $100,000 for one of these cars, there's nothing you can buy. You know, if you buy a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or Rolls Royce, whatever, there's nothing out there that's going to give you the same result as the DeLorean Time Machine. I don't think there's another movie car out there. You know, people will argue maybe some James Bond's cars or Knight Rider or maybe Ghostbusters or the Batmobile. But I think the Time Machine is one of those cars that just transcends all of those, in my opinion. And that's just how I feel about it. That's why I do the car. That's why I love them. Audrey says, true fan isn't picky about real accuracy. It's about capturing spirit. I'm going to say you're wrong about that. I see these, quote, these real fans. Oh my gosh, they get into flame wars. You know, some of the things we were talking about here about the color of the Flux bands or the color of the Flux boxes or this, whether, I mean, I've seen people argue over zip ties, the direction of the zip tie, the width of the zip tie, the color of the zip tie, this bracket and that bracket. And this, I mean, this color wire, there is a little red wire that's like looped over by the driver's side that people pay attention to. There are things that would blow your mind, intricacies to this car that I've learned about. I know way too much about this car, things that I can't forget. And, you know, it's definitely changed my life because people who've seen me on other podcasts talking about the things I've done in the music industry or the television industry or even the restaurant industry, all these different things, this thing that was a hobby that I would use as an escape became the encapsulation of my life. But then I've branched off into other cars. So I'm known to people in the world of Ghostbusters or Knight Rider or A-Team or Jurassic Park or all these other cars that I've worked on in the past. But the DeLorean Time Machine and Back to the Future, I think, is one in particular that overshadows them all and always will. And I'm so grateful that I've gotten the chance to meet, not only meet, but become friends with so many of my heroes and mentors, people who were in the movie, people who created the movie, and to be the one that they call on when they need something. It's fantastic when Bob Gale, who wrote the movie, will write me and say, hey, we need something, or Universal Studios will say, hey, can you do this for us? And I remember going to Universal Studios Orlando when I was a kid and taking pictures in front of that car. And, you know, the thought of getting close to it, sitting in it, driving it, owning it, building it, never in a million years. And here all these years later, I'm the one they call when they need something. So it's been a whirlwind, and I can only thank the fans, my customers, and of course, like I said, my peers, because all of us work together. You know, the people that we had on the podcast, we all work together. You know, Brett makes great parts, Danny makes great parts. We all have to work together, and that's the reason we can build the cars that we build today. And Kevin has been really gracious to all of us. You know, I've been to his home. I spent Christmas at his house one year, not to brag, but I mean, just fantastic family, and you couldn't pick a better family to be in than Back to the Future. I just wanted to go through real quick, make sure I didn't miss anybody's questions or comments, because this is a live show. Juan's like, you gonna have any giveaways of some sort? No. I don't know. Maybe as things progress, we'll start making. I don't want to start nickel and diamond my fans and stuff, but maybe we'll make shirts or something. Who's gonna wear a Videobob shirt? I don't know. Is anybody gonna take this logo that I have up here in the upper right corner? If I put that on a shirt, you gonna wear that? I don't think so. I can't expect you to. However, if you ever meet me in person, I'll give you a guitar pick with that picture on it. Where is it? This right here. My logo. There it is. Anyway, I think we've been on here way too long. Just real quick, let me see. They're like, yeah, give away a time machine. No. All right, the important thing is make sure to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed watching this video, please copy and paste the link to it, put it on your timeline, share it to all your Back to the Future, tag your friends. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, turn on the notifications if you want to be notified when we're doing a live show, and that'll really help us out a lot. I want to once again thank all of the people that we had on the show: Oliver, Danny, Brett, Elliot, Carl, Kevin Pike. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I had everybody's names written down here, but my head's in a whirlwind here. Let's see here. Let me just double check here. Somebody was making Elvis says, thanks for the wonderful show. Thank you, Elvis. Thank you all for letting me do this. This was so much fun. And thank you so much again. Thank you, Biggie. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Wesley. Everybody. It says, my name's Chris. Okay. All right, let me wrap up. Anyway, this was so much fun. This was our first show. Went way over time, 2.5 hours. This was fantastic. I want to do this so much more. I'm so glad. I'm going to go ahead and give a free plug to StreamYard. StreamYard is a great platform making this possible for us. And as I also want to thank somebody who really helped, Kevin Bennett, who did my graphics and overlays for the show. I'm going to build a thing where we'll have some credits. We'll also start doing Patreon. So whereas a lot of people, I do have a Patreon Videobob. I need to put a link up to that. I'll put it in the video description. But we'll start doing Patreon, and we'll start adding people's names to the credits who do the Patreons, just like a lot of other YouTubers do. Because people really like the shout outs. I try to do the shout outs. And we'll definitely be doing this more, and we'll have other people on. Okay, listen. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Videobob, and this is the Videobob Show. Thank you, guys.